Greetings, Sifters, and welcome to GameFace, episode 408 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion, and alongside me to do that, as always, is Matt Keil. What's up, Matt Keil? Matt was MIA there for a minute. I didn't know where he was. I was like, what are we going to do? Should I go on and tell people we're going to pause? But he was just, his house is so, I think your house is so big, you just didn't hear me yelling for you.
Well, as I said, I was brushing my teeth with one of those sonic toothbrushes, and that kind of...
It does that. It vibrates your whole mouth. And
I can't hear anything but that.
Yeah.
You want to sneak up on me, that's when you want to do it.
Okay, I'll remember that. Welcome to GameFace 408. Hope you guys are doing good. We have a stacked show today. We have 4 reviews in today's show. Pretty much release season is here.
Although none of the things I played this week.
Oh, really?
No.
What could you have played that...
I played Neva and Sonic and Shadow.
Oh, you did?
And Unknown 9.
Wow. Well, there you go. There's our lineup for next week's episode.
I am one of the 200.
That played which one?
Unknown 9 only had like 160 concurrent players.
The reviews I've seen so far haven't been great.
It's a game.
Anytime Matt says that, you know it sucks.
It doesn't suck. It's just
no. Bandai Namco is publishing that.
It's just nothing very special.
Yeah.
It feels very old. It feels like something a scrappy little Euro developer would have put out like 10 years ago.
Spiders.
Kind of.
Our favorite.
Yeah.
It kind of looked that way from the trailers and stuff that I had seen of it. But anyway, there you just got a preview of some of our rundown for next week's episode, a bunch of games that Matt played. And I played 4 entirely different games that we're going to talk about on today's show. So this is the review season. Pretty much from here on out, GameFace is mostly going to be stacked with game reviews instead of news. And that's a good thing because the news this week was pretty light. It always kind of works out that way. I don't know how, Matt, but like when we have a lot of games to talk about, it's a light news week, and vice versa. It seems to work that way almost every week. And we're not going to spend a ton of time on housekeeping today because, again, with 4 reviews in the show, getting through this show in the amount of time that we have is going to be really, really tight. So we can't screw around today. I don't want to spend a ton of time doing housekeeping. However, I do want to obviously send out all the important info. If you like the show and you want to support it, head to patreon.com/sifted. For $4 a month, you get all our shows early. You get GameFace 4 days early. All our other content at least 3 days early. Packed or Factor a week early. If you don't have any money, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're watching this show on YouTube, go down to the description below. There's step-by-step instructions on how to do that. If you guys are already done it at once and then linked to your accounts, then please head over to twitch.tv/siftedgames and re-up if you can. It's a way to give us free money as long as you're an Amazon Prime subscriber. And then, of course, you can always dislike the show, comment on the show. Again, our numbers are going up. And that is because you guys are doing that stuff. It is really crazy how much a difference it makes. It really is. Not only are our views going up for the show, but our subscribers are going up. Like just last week, it just out of nowhere, our subscribers just shot up and we gained like 300 subscribers. I don't know what's going on, but most of it is good. And again, I think it's because a lot of you guys are just leaving those one-word comments. Great podcast. Love the show. Love Matt. Any of that stuff. It doesn't matter what you put in there.
All of those are multi-word comments, by the way.
Good point. But anyway, just 1 or 2 words. It makes a difference. It's just all about the engagement from you guys. So if you like the show, there's a ton of ways to help us out. We'd appreciate all of it. And again, we have no time today for housekeeping. We're going to go straight into the headlines. If I can find the correct graphics here. It has been a slow week for news, but there's a couple big-ish stories. I think the first one, we kind of teased this last week, and that was that Nintendo sent out this thing to people who are Nintendo Switch Online subscribers saying, hey, we have this new thing that we want you to test. Like, they set up this thing where you could sign up. They thought it was going to take 2 weeks to get enough people to sign up, and it took 7 minutes. And then Nintendo tried to tell people, like, don't talk about it. We're going to put you under NDA. Well, as it turns out...
Guess what?
As we said last week, that wasn't going to work. It did not work. Literally, the minute that stuff broke, people were on social media sharing exactly what it is. And Matt, Nintendo is working on an MMO-ish styled Minecraft clone.
This looked like something that could very much be integrated into like a Street Pass style part of the OS thing.
Yeah. So we talked about that last week. We were like, maybe it's this cool little thing that like you can like.
Not that it's similar to Street Pass, but like
Right.
I could see this being integrated into the Switch 2's sort of experience.
So do you think it's Switch 2 You think that's what it
Yes.
is? Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, the timing obviously makes perfect sense, but...
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this is something that, like, could also work on current Switch somehow. Like a big overhaul of the, sort of like how they would overhaul the OS on Xbox and stuff, and it would also impact the 360.
Right.
Things like that. Bring back the blades. But, like, I could see this being sort of a, like we said before, like something that brings the Mii's back into the forefront, because it feels like that sort of, online, kind of that online massively multiplayer thing.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like everyone,
I've actually never heard that phrase before. Passively, massively.
That's because I just made that up.
Well, that's pretty... I knew exactly what you were talking about when you said it.
Get another passive massive out there. Yeah, let's make that catch on now.
Yeah.
But no, it looked to me like it could have been. I mean, it could be its own game. It could be a separate thing that they're doing. But it also looked like something that, like, depending on the complexity, like you could integrate that into. Because it looks like something you want everyone playing. Because you want a critical mass of people, and the best way to do that is to make sure that everybody who ever logs into a Switch 2 is playing it.
So you think this might be like kind of the dashboard environment for Switch 2?
It might be something like that. Like, it looks a little too involved to be that, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was right there.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you
like the
wanted
Mii Plaza,
kind of like the
Mii
Mii Plaza sort of thing.
Yeah. But an evolution.
Yeah.
Of that whole concept. And we talked about it last week. Matt and I both loved that.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not against that at all, and it looked interesting. Like the screenshots and the kind of the little descriptions of it, like I mean, you should probably read those descriptions, I guess. But but it's interesting. I mean, it doesn't seem like something that's going to occupy a lot of my time, but in terms of kind of a check-in every day and see what's happening sort of thing, it could be cool.
One thing I don't like about Switch, Matt, is how the Mii has gone away. Like, it used to be every Wii and Wii U game I played, all my Miis would be in there. I'd be in there. All these celebrities would be in there. You would be in there. Like,
I mean, I can't pin that entirely on the Switch. Like, the kind of the online service avatar thing has just gone away.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo stopped
not that
supporting
Sony ever had it, but like Xbox, the
they tried with Home a little bit.
a little, yeah, it was the Home thing, but that was a long time ago.
And a failure.
I talked to someone this weekend at a party who was her current system is a PS3.
Wow.
And she was like, she wants
one of those people.
She wants a PS5. But she's like, what can I play from my PS3 on my PS5? And I'm like, nothing.
But the PS3 will play everything.
But you could buy new versions of them that run better, like,
and pay more money for them.
Like, it was, and you could stream them.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I told her about how almost everything you think of that's like endemic to the PS3 is still trapped there. But and Microsoft, especially this generation, but also last generation, they really moved away from the avatar thing.
It's funny. I just was looking at my avatar the other day on my Xbox Series X, and I was like, man, I've had that thing for literally 14 years. And I started looking into replacing it, and I can't replace it with my face again. Like, there's no way to do that now, like there was back then.
Well, then I forgot that, I don't think about it, and I think it was a while ago, but at one point, sometimes you wander into a place in the Xbox OS where you find the avatars again, and I'd forgotten that my avatar for the last 10 years has been wearing a Batman costume and riding a rainbow unicorn. And I'm like, oh, all right, I remember that.
That's hilarious.
That's just been happening back there this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that system also was pushed way to the back.
Oh,
it used to be you'd load up your Xbox, your little dude would dance around, and
every once in a while, like a Nintendo thing will come up that has reminiscent
fragments
avatar thing. You're like, oh yeah, that's still that aesthetic's still kind of there.
Yeah.
But Xbox is just no. It's like we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the time you saw the bottom of an avatar's shoe.
I honestly like the ability to work with Mii's in games. I thought it added personality and some connective tissue between the player and the game, because it's there's these real world things. Sometimes it does take you out of it a little bit at the same time.
I mean, I didn't mind it. It was sort of that thing where I'm like, this is not a substitute for actual games.
Yeah.
Which was a problem on the Wii.
But I love playing a game and say I'm playing Mario Kart and you pass me. And I'm like, there goes Matt. And I'm like, I'm catching Matt's ass. Like, it definitely changes kind of how I looked at games in a lot of ways, which I thought was kind of cool. But
yeah, I mean, it was. I thought Xbox did it better in a lot of ways with the avatar briefly. Where like there was a period where like all the online only people I knew, like I associate my visual of those people are Xbox avatars.
yeah. It's kind of crazy to think
because weirdly people did pretty much make themselves in those, which is often hard to do. Like a lot of people don't want to be themselves in video game things, but most people seem to have made themselves in the me's and the Xbox avatars.
Yeah, I also went back when I was doing all that other stuff with my avatar. I went back and looked at my friends list on Xbox, and it's kind of crazy. Like I have a huge friends list from the Xbox 360 era, basically, and now it's like 70% of my list is like hasn't logged in 5 years, hasn't logged in 7 years.
There's a not insubstantial chunk of my friends list that's dead now.
Right.
Like,
You're right.
It's there's a few and a couple. One of them, who I'd known forever, his son inherited the account. So, so his avatar looks completely different now.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's impressive to me that the kid changed the avatar because like it's hard to even find that.
I mean, if it were my dad's account, I probably would have left it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Do you remember that story, Matt, where the one kid's father died and he started playing his dad's Xbox and found ghost racing data?
Oh, yeah.
In games, and he was racing his dad after his dad had died.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty powerful.
Well, it's like that Animal Crossing thing where like your mom, and it's like that's part of the function of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like your mother just sends you stuff or whatever, but like. And like, but then like you like there was something where like she had stockpiled all these gifts or something. Mm-hmm. It was like, every once in a while you get something like that.
Yeah, kind of breaks through. So anyway, we don't know 100% what it is. My guess is once people actually start sampling it, we'll get more details.
Yeah, well, I saw some stuff on it. It was like you're building like a little planet together.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of Sim Life.
A little bit,
Like the visuals kind of had that sort of the wireframe globe sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of one of those like, passively massively multiplayer. It's like, or not as stupid, but the thing where everybody had to tap on that Molyneux game, where everybody had to tap on the thing for months until it opened. It felt like that kind of like you're gonna do, or Helldivers too. Everything you do gets you 0.01 closer to your goal.
That global goal. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's what it is after all the mystery that lasted all of about 2 weeks. Has there been any gameplay that's popped up on YouTube yet?
I haven't seen any moving pictures. No.
Yeah, because I'm sure Nintendo, as silly as it was to think this wasn't going to get out, is probably losing its mind.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wait, it was 1 minute later and all the news was out there. But anyway, it had to have known this was going to happen.
If they thought it was going to take that long to get that many volunteers, they don't seem to be operating in
They're a little naive
in the space here.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, a game that we've been tracking here on GameFace for quite a while now. Actually, let's go to chat real quick because Vincent, I think, has some insight on the stuff we were just discussing.
Longer than we've been doing this.
Well, yes, it is. Yep. Vincent says the question is whether it's more like Minecraft or closer to Roblox. It's being made by EPD4, who made Gambler Garage, so that could be the angle. He says the game hasn't officially opened yet. All the info is from the description and data mines. Yeah, that's what I thought. So maybe there's even
and presumably the people who leaked this will not be playing it.
Yeah, they will never get the chance to play it. Absolutely. My guess is it's probably. I mean, if you're smart, it's closer to Roblox because you can make so much more money off of that idea than Minecraft. I mean, let's be honest. Mighty Pony Girl says the Animal Crossing story makes me cry. Yeah, that story about the son and his dad is pretty tear-jerky too, man. It's really powerful. I mean, actually, before we go on here, I'm going to thank people for Twitch Prime. The Legacy, thank you. TV Hardy, thank you. Userfriendly.exe, thank you. AJ the Legend, thank you. Hope you're doing good, man. Who else got in here today? Anybody? You guys are chatting it up. Khalid Twilai, thank you for giving us tier 1 sub to Vincent. Look at Vincent getting hooked up. One Super Master Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. David Nordic, thank you. Super Zig, thank you. And Lido CFR, thank you. Awesome. Thanks, guys. That stuff makes a world of difference for us. Okay, looks like you guys are good on that topic. Let's move on to our next story, which I just kind of teased a little bit about. We've been talking about a game called Star Citizen here on GameFace for literally since the show launched, so like 9 years at this point. It is this money pit of a game that people have been giving thousands and thousands of dollars to, and nothing... Millions at this point. Nothing really tangible has been released for the game at this point. Is that fair to say?
I mean, there's the what you call the hangar, which is like a pre-alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And you like nothing consistent. You sort of there's not really even a flight model in it.
Yeah.
Like it's just you can move up and down and fly around it, but it's not a flight model. You're just moving a ship.
Yeah,
through
inside.
I wouldn't call it a game, but every time you say this, like it's a vaporware, it's vapor or nonsense, that you're gonna get the true believers screaming at you about
Who
it. No, you can go play it
money.
right now, and I'm like, I have played it. I am an original Kickstarter backer of this game from
10 years ago.
Longer, no, 12 years
Yeah.
ago. G4 was still on the air. Well, I backed this game on my work computer at G4. That's how old this fucking game is.
We're not talking about the revived G4 that
No, I'm
happened
talking
a few
about
years
original
ago.
G4. And keep in mind, this December, it will have been 12 years since they shut G4 down. It will have been the same amount of time since they shut G4 down as the same amount of time that I worked there.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for 12 years in Tech TV. For 12 years.
Time just flies anymore, man.
So yeah, this game's been in development for a time.
Yeah. And people have been giving them money for ships, basically, that they assume one day they'll be able to fly in the real game.
Yeah, basically pay to win in the future at
Right.
some point.
Here, I'll give you $5,000 for this ship that's going to own.
Yeah, like for like a
10
capital
years.
ship that you need like 12 players to crew. And I mean, it's such a weird subculture.
It really is.
There's like people that think that if you when you first start the game, when it's actually done and out, if that ever happens, that you should have to start by like swabbing the deck on another player's ship until they give you
Be a
permission
plebe.
to do something else.
Important.
There was a huge flat.
That's not happening, bro.
Several years ago, there was a huge thing on the forums there where all these people were demanding that chattel slavery be part of the game. The fucking lunatics. But yeah, it's they still have this thing called Citizen Con, which is amazing that you call your convention Citizen Con every year. I seems a little on the nose, but it seems to work. And so sometimes you get these announcements or demos of things that never actually come to fruition until like years later. And this is very specifically about the difference between Star Citizen, which is the massively persistent multiplayer universe simulator, and Squadron 42, which is technically the original pitch, which is basically Wing Commander.
Yeah, a first-person shooter with flying.
A single player. When that was first-person shooter, wasn't even part of it.
Right,
It was
initially.
just Wing Commander. Again, without the name on it. And at some point, they decided that you should be able to get out of the ship and run around and shoot things in first person. So now it's also a first-person shooter. They did mocap and everything with like Malcolm McDowell and Mark Hamill and Gillian Anderson and all these people like years and years ago. Like they are visibly younger in the in the mocap of this. It's amazing.
Well, the news is that
so
Squadron
the news is
42
about Squadron 42
is coming in 2026.
Yeah, and I will just note that back on NeoGAF, if you remember that site now, before
does it still exist?
It still exists, but it's a hard right chud hellscape now.
Not surprised.
Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
Again, not surprised.
Back in the day before the big Exodus to Reset era, there was like obviously an ongoing thread about it there. And if you even suggested that the 2016 release date for Squadron 42 was maybe a little optimistic, you would be screamed at by
Here
the
we
weirdo
are,
cultists.
8 years later, waiting for 10 years later.
Waiting for 10 years later, and if you think this is coming out in 2026, I have a digital Starship to sell you.
So what's ever going to happen with this, Matt? Do you think people eventually are going to sue for their money, or can they? I guess they can't.
I wouldn't think so. No, it's Kickstarter in the first place. And
but then after that,
everything else is just a donation site they've set up on their own, their own Star Citizen, Roberts Space Industries or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you click through all the you have already signed the thing that says you waive all your rights to that when you give them money for that shit. And then they can just turn around and show the stupid Hangar Alpha module and be like, see, we're doing stuff. And look, the thing is, they've raised some obscene hundreds of millions of dollars figure at this point. It's got to be closing in on $1 billion at this point.
Yeah.
It actually does cost about that much to keep two game studios running for 10, 12 years.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thinks they're pocketing the money or anything.
There are people who think that.
Oh, really?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think they just don't know what the fuck they're doing.
It's just horribly managed.
And they have and Chris Roberts has no idea when to stop.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about.
Well, it's his job, so if he stops, he loses his job.
Right, but I mean, like, feature creep stop.
Right.
I mean, like the fact that there's no reason to be having these people tear the whole thing apart and put back together so you can get the physics of the bed sheets correct.
Right.
Like that was a thing for a while, like deformation of bed sheets when a character was laying on them. And I'm like, no one gives a shit. And they keep talking about changing the AI and the bartender as their sort of pilot program for the bartender being like how the NPCs will work. And it's like, it's nothing.
Just
nothing
finish
there.
the effing game.
I backed this because I wanted a nice looking wing commander. Yeah. Like, what the fuck
you could have
is
got
wrong
3
with
of them
you?
by now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So anyway, stay far away from Star Citizen. Do not give it any money. The only way it's going to stop is if the money stops coming in. And then they'll finish the effing game.
I mean, Squadron 42 may happen at some point. Like
2028.
Star Citizen is the money pit.
Right.
Star Citizen is where, like, you've got these people that think they're going to live in another universe.
They're going to be like the god of that universe because they've given $20,000.
Right. That's what they want. It's like a weird power trip fantasy in this alternate. That's why they wanted people to have to swap
the
decks.
decks.
Because they want some kind of power.
Because they put the money in.
Yeah.
And they're like, I need to be the leader if I put the money in. Yeah.
And it's why, you get things where it's like, in the when they first sort of installed like this in the hangar module thing, like it's kind of a space port, and you could get a ship and fly around this one planet and stuff. And I guess they're talking about finally adding like another solar system or whatever. But like, keeping in mind that in the final game it's supposed to be like 40,
right?
But like it took like 30 minutes to get from your apartment you wake up in to the space dock to where you get your ship, right? And you have to get up and like go down to a train station.
I remember this. I played it. And
like there were people in line to get on the train because you can't clip into other players, so the trains can
wait
get full.
your turn.
So you're just literally sitting there waiting to commute to your fucking video game. It's the dumbest thing I have ever seen. With Squadron 42, I think it might actually exist. I mean, obviously they've done the mocap, they've done like the bones are there. Mm-hmm. My feeling is like their release of this is going to be like chapter 1. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get
a 3-hour chunk of gameplay.
Yeah, you're gonna get like the first chapter of this thing, and they're gonna say, "Oh, we're gonna release." He's gonna do an episodic thing, and maybe you'll get chapter 2 2 years later, and then you'll never hear about it again.
Stay far away, people. Just stay far away.
Or donate like $1 so you can read the forums.
Oh yeah, because it might be worth the $1.
It's very entertaining.
There you go.
There are some wacky people.
Yeah,
who are very, very
they've invested a lot of money.
A couple years ago, there was somebody who started a thread, and I think they deleted it. The mods deleted it, but it was literally a thread saying, "I don't think I'm going to live long enough to see this game. How do I pass my account and all these ships I bought to my son?" Mm-hmm. And sure enough, every once in a while, you will see another memorial thread pop up of like, this guy who's been posting here for 10 years died this week, so pour out a whatever to the...
While we pour his money into our bank account.
It's like, yeah, there's a bunch of people that kickstarted this thing didn't live to see it, like, because it's taken so long, and because they're appealing to older... I mean, I'm even on the younger end of the spectrum of people that were really into those Space Sim and like Spectrum Holobyte games back in the day. Yeah. And they're all you're more and more. You're starting to see people, longtime backers, there pop up with anxiety about like, am I going to ever get to see this? Yeah. And it's just like, that's horrifying.
It is awful. Yeah, it's awful. So anyway, the news was this: Squadron 42 is supposed to come out in 2026. Neither one of us believe it.
And also, that's even the cult was disappointed with this. Yeah. They're like, oh, not next year? Like, they thought next year? Because I'm on the list. I get the newsletter, and every newsletter is a special Squadron 42 section where they're like, we're doing this, and this is almost done, and that's almost done, and and it's like, yeah. 2 years, huh? Mm-hmm. After... I mean, this was supposed to launch in 2014.
Yeah, I know. Remember? It's insane.
This was supposed to be out before you started this site.
I know. It's crazy. And that's why we've been talking about it since I launched this site. Anyway, next up, we got some interesting information out of PlayStation Camp. This week, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was announced for PC, which you say, what's the big deal about that? All PlayStation games are coming to PC right now. The big deal with this one is that it was announced for PC less than a year after it was released for PlayStation 5. Now, it was less than a year by like 4 days or something like that.
Yeah,
but,
I think yesterday was the year.
Yeah, but
anniversary.
technically, it was less than a year after it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's coming in January 30th, I think.
January 20th.
Is that right?
I think.
20th? Late in January, for sure. It's coming to PC. And maybe the worst part of the announcement, Matt, is that there is going to be no DLC for the game.
I think we knew that.
Did we know that already?
Well,
I was surprised by it.
Because of the Insomniac leak had the DLC schedule for this, and none of it came out. Because it was supposed to have 2 of them out already.
Yeah.
Right? There was the Beetle DLC,
Right,
and there was the
right.
Carnage DLC, and that didn't happen. And Tony Todd says that like 90% of the lines he recorded for Venom are not in the game.
Really?
My guess is they're repurposing all that into the Venom game.
What do you think happened?
I don't know.
Why did they... I mean, Insomniac... This doesn't happen with Insomniac usually.
No.
It's very good about...
The leak stuff might have been old data, like for all we know. But also, they had a whole system of like costumes that were supposed to come out. And
Right.
The costumes kind of
Oh,
dried
yeah.
out real
What happened to
fast.
that?
I don't know. I mean, they put a couple costume packs out, but not as many as the first game.
This is strange. I think you may be right. I think they maybe took a lot of the content that was supposed to be DLC for this game and moved it to the other game, but that's not very Insomniac-like.
No,
for
it's
it
not.
to do that. It's very... I feel like maybe PlayStation is starting to meddle a little bit.
I don't know what would cause that.
That's the best guess I have. Because I don't know it. We know the people that work at Insomniac. Like, we know them as friends, people. And I really struggle to believe any of those people be like, yeah, we're cool with that. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what a Venom game would be in this
I like the Venom parts of the game.
I didn't really.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's a very interesting take on Venom.
I'll say this. There was enough in the game. Like, I
that was plenty.
I wasn't like hoping for more.
And it's in general from, across all media, just move on from the symbiote shit. Like,
Yeah.
that's enough. It's enough. We got another Venom movie coming out
this
week.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the one this week. I thought you were saying after the one coming out this week.
This is the end. This
Okay.
is the finale of Venom. Although Hardy says he's up for like fighting Spider-Man as Venom later in some other movie or something. But like, they're doing all this Venom War stuff in the comics right now, and and they're going to do more. They just announced this week at New York Comic Con. They just announced that Spider-Verse versus Venom-Verse is the next big crossover for Spider-Man books next year. It's just like, Venom was like one of my favorite characters back when he first started, and like the symbiote stuff is just nonsense now. And I know like Null, who is the King in Black, he's the god of symbiotes. He was in the comics a while ago. He's going to be a villain in the new Venom movie, and he's going to carry on into Spider-Man 4 in the MCU. Like they're really moving on this symbiote stuff, and I thought the symbiote stuff in Spider-Man 2 was not... I mean, kudos to them for like kind of making a Venom version that is sort of its own thing and incorporating a lot of what the character has become in the intervening 10-15 years, like with the wings and all. Like that's all taken from the King in Black storyline, although they don't get into that in this because it's very weird and cosmic, and it's more of a Galactus kind of thing. But overall, like, it felt there's an element of it that just feels intrusive. Like when you go back to Spider-Man 1 and it's just a story about Peter and getting to know Miles and dealing with the fact that his mentor and boss is one of his main villains, and sort of the rise of the real supervillain. He's fought like guys in weird tech suits before Spider-Man 1 starts, but that game is sort of the story of the rise of his real villains.
Right.
And there's an element of this that you got real, Sandman is obviously a real weird, that's beyond like the Vulture.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But it just feels like it gets really wrapped up in the symbiote stuff, and the symbiote stuff doesn't really pay off beyond like there's goo on you and it does weird shit.
Yeah.
And then what? Like, I can't even really tell you what I'm saying. And now you're like, okay, well, where do we go now? And it's like, well, with step one, whatever Spider-Man 3 is, the first thing they got to do is get that symbiote off.
Right. Yeah, 'cause they still have to resolve that in the game.
Right.
You're right.
Because you can't, like...
That sucks.
Because I get why he keeps it, because you can't take his abilities away.
Yeah.
You know, because you got to still be able to play the game. Theoretically, there was DLC coming where you were supposed to keep those skill trees.
Yeah.
But like when you move into the next game, you got to take the anti-venom symbiote away from them.
Yeah.
Like because you can't still be that the whole time.
Yeah.
And it just all feels like it's kind of for nothing. And one of the reasons I think it feels like that is because Venom, you can tell Venom's part in Spider-Man 2 was cut way, way down. Because if Venom has like 25 lines in the game.
Yeah.
And if that's the Venom you wrote, you don't hire Tony Todd for that.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
They definitely have bigger plans.
There was definitely more to that because if you hire Tony Todd, it means you have some shit going on.
You're in it.
Like you want him to really read some stuff for you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he did a lot more than what was in the game. So maybe Venom is getting his own game, but I don't even know what that would be like because I didn't find that section where you played as Venom to be all that compelling.
Yeah. Let's go back to the topic though.
But like,
what does it say for PlayStation with PC going forward? Do you think that this window is going to keep getting shorter? Because that's what seems to be happening. Because at first it was like the game had been out for 2.5 years, and then it was 18 months. And
this game undersold by expectations.
Did it? I actually didn't know that.
Apparently.
I didn't know that, actually.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think expectations were realistic for it because it cost so much, and they were hoping that it would build on how well the first one
have
sold.
legs and
I mean, it sold better than almost anything you'd ever want anything to sell. But like when you spend $400 million on something, you're gonna be like, oh, that wasn't a lot in the end, was it?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're putting this back out as then there's no reason to wait on it if you don't have any more DLC to do. Because if you're going to put the PC version out of this, I think the main thing you're waiting on is to have a complete version.
Right. Yeah.
So if you don't have to worry about that anymore, might as well do that. I bet when it comes out on PC, that will be the release of the final DLC costumes for the PS5 version.
Right.
And that'll be that. And and basically, I think it's like a thing where they want to move on.
If you're a PlayStation owner, how do you feel about this? Do you care?
Why would I?
You think a year's enough time of exclusivity?
Who cares? Doesn't affect me at all.
Well, you know how fanboys are, man.
I don't care about fanboys.
But I'm just asking you, how do the hardcore PlayStation fans digest this?
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And no one should give a shit.
Unfortunately, they're a big part of our industry, and to be honest with you, they generate a lot of revenue.
They generate regular revenue, but they're not the reason Spider-Man is a success.
Yeah, but
there's thousands of them, not millions.
The fanboys are the ones who are buying the games the first month. Like we went through that data last week about how a lot of people are playing their backlogs and people aren't buying new games. They are the ones who buy the game month one and generated that big number for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, well, if they're skipping a game because they think one day it might be on PC, they can go fuck themselves. I don't care what they say.
I mean, they're over the fact that it's going to PC. I think it's the time now.
Well, they already bought it, so it doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Not buy the next one? No, they're going to buy.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm PlayStation, I'm like you. I don't really care what they think because you're right. They're going to buy the game no matter what. They may throw a stink about it, but
yeah, whine all you want.
A year later,
going to get it.
Who cares? You know?
Yeah, you're going to I'm not going to buy Spider-Man 3 because I have a moral stance about how early the last one came to PC a year after I played. Go fuck yourself.
I think it brings up the question though of
no, I don't think
how far does fandom go? Like how far can you push the hardcore fan before they finally are like, you know what? I've had enough. Is there in
I don't
gaming?
know. Let's find out.
Yeah. But in gaming, I don't know if there is a place where they'll wake up and be like, you know what? I'm changing.
I mean, it seems like that has happened with the weird group of anti-woke DEI dipshits.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a real thing that happened. It's just something they've been grifted into believing, and they just see it everywhere.
It feels like
down to the fact that people were harassing the guy who made Tales of Kent. Was it?
Kenzara,
yeah. They were literally harassing the guy because they said he went woke DEI by putting he's like, it's about me and my father. And it's like, well, it's a shame you use the death of your father to push an agenda. And it's like, what the fuck are you idiots talking about?
It does feel like in our society, not just with gamers, once people choose a team to root for, it feels like there is nothing that's going to change their mind.
But also, one thing I will say about that angle of things, pay attention to those people when they talk about these games. They've never played any of this shit.
Yeah.
They haven't played these games. Everyone talking about Dragon Age and being whatever, they haven't played the other Dragon Age games because those games have always been about touching gay elves.
Yeah. I mean, all they care about is what's coming out now and whether it offends whatever their sensibilities are.
They want you to believe they are the hardcore fanboys like what you were talking about, a minute ago, but they are not.
They're not the ones.
They are tourists.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about
they're just
anything.
trying to find things to
Right, they're trying to find a new thing to latch on to.
Yeah.
And then they'll pivot as soon as they realize it's successful.
Or they realize
can't sell
that
that
nobody
idea.
cares.
Right.
So it is a little interesting. Like, a lot of you guys are PlayStation owners. How do you guys feel about a big PlayStation exclusive like this basically coming out after a year? Retro Modern Gamer says Xbox fanboys have found out with Xbox downward spiral. Daredevil 619 says DLC won't do justice for Venom. Should get a standalone game. He is, isn't he? Isn't there a Venom game coming?
That the leak show the Venom game was on the schedule for next fall.
Yeah, for Insomniac. There's supposed to be one coming. Absolutely.
Because it's supposed to be Venom next fall and then Wolverine the 2026.
Mazorin, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Appreciate it. Khalib Twile asks, is Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii DLC or a standalone? It's a standalone game.
Yeah,
it's a brand new game, Khalib Twile. Yeah. Erebus Jones says, it cost too much and didn't make enough if you look at the leaks. They've just cut it off early. I actually missed all that information. So that's
yeah, they spent way too much on this.
I mean, I did know that because that's one thing that the leaks established was that PlayStation was unhappy with how much they spent on it. What else we got here? Emperor Dread says, I own a PS5. Couldn't care less about it going non-exclusive. But do you also own other consoles? It's not just owning a PS5. It's like, is the PS5 your only console? Because if you own another platform, you're not a fanboy, bro. Honestly, I hate to tell you, but that's the truth of it all. Squishy Muffin says, do you think Astrobot will come to PC? That genre is not...
That's an excellent question.
It's a good question, yeah.
I think it might. I think it might just because it was so well received, and I think it's
not going to sell as well as they hoped.
It's a slow burn sale. I think I wouldn't be surprised if that has like word of mouth legs.
I wouldn't be surprised if it sells really well in November
Christmas.
and December.
Yeah,
Yep,
100%.
Yep.
But I think you get another boost of sales out of the issue with it is like it's a great platformer, but so much of it is based on PlayStation nostalgia. Like it feels a little weird to play a game where you're basically rebuilding a PS5 on a PC.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
So I don't know. It's so PlayStation branded.
It is soaked in PlayStation.
That it feels
juice.
like maybe that would be a strange move, but at the same time, a great game's a great game.
And all that really matters is they get their money back for it. And all I care about is they get their money back for it so I can play Astrobot 2.
Right.
And so I hope they do release it for PC so that they can sell as many as possible. Cody S. Carter, thank you.
It would be kind of funny to do it, but I wouldn't say no.
Oh, Mighty Pony Girl, you trying to bully people in our chat again? I'm joking. Cody S. Carter, thank you for Twitch Prime. Squishy Muffin says also considering its reliance on the DualSense. But the thing is, it's like the DualSense works pretty much perfectly at this point
you
with
just
PC.
plug it in.
Like, they finally got it working well.
I had to plug the DualSense in to play Ghost of Tsushima because all the workarounds for a regular controller or without the touchpad, they just don't work right.
Yeah.
It's just not intuitive.
Yeah, I agree. Retro Modern Gamer says, fanboys being sour grapes about other people playing their games on other platforms need to get over themselves. Yep, we've been saying that on this show for 10 years, and I was saying it on Invisible Walls for 10 years before that. I'll never understand fanboy culture. If you're over the age of, like, 11. You know what really blows my mind, Matt? Some of the comments that we get on our YouTube channel. And people who are acting like they're, like, 3 years old. And in their comment, they'll be like, I've been following you since 2006. Which means that these people are in their 40s and 50s. And they're acting like 3-year-olds. That's scary, man. It's really crazy.
Well, that's the thing to me. It's like, there was like people on Twitter this week who was like doing this whole, that whole thing with the fanboy platform stuff. And I'm like, and it was about the things coming to PC. I think it was actually in relation to Spider-Man 2. But I was like, are you 13? Because, like, if you're an adult, you should be able to buy whatever you want. Like, because the console war, the origins of the console wars are we were all kids and our parents were the ones who had to buy the stuff for us. So you basically convinced yourself that you'd made the best decision, and you'd yell at people who disagreed with you because you didn't want to believe that you were missing out on anything.
Right.
Like that's what the console wars are.
Yeah.
It's like I bought a Genesis, and I don't want to ever consider the possibility that there's stuff on Super Nintendo that's great and I'm missing out on it.
I think that carries over to what I was saying earlier about just in general in society. Once people pick their team, it's very hard to commit against all evidence.
But it's just one of the video game platforms are the things you think would have been one of the most easy things to solve. Because the solution to that is just now you're an adult and you have a job. Go
buy
get the other game system.
And I have also been saying literally since my days at GameSpot back at like 2000, 2001, like, don't buy a few games and get the other console. I've been saying this for decades. Like, get the other console. Play the best games on all the consoles. Your life will be much better.
Yeah, I admit it's harder and harder to say about the Xbox.
It is. It's true.
It's sort of, now
that
it's
is
sort of
a good point.
It's sort of like, just go get a decent PC.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to use it for other things too.
Yeah.
And it'll kind of...
I mean, a PC kind of is an Xbox at this point. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have not turned that thing on in a very long time.
With your PC, why would you?
Yeah.
PC Game Pass, you're good to go. Khalib Twai says, I covered the PS2, GameCube, Xbox console war as a journalist for student government in middle school. Okay. KC Alpha asks, did GameTrailers ever engineer content for console war clicks? Not intentionally. We never sat down and had a meeting where we were like, hey, how can we milk the fanboys for views?
I mean, all you needed to do for that, especially back then, was just put up a trailer for an exclusive.
Right. Well,
and that's not your fault.
Ultimately, we did end up kind of creating content that appealed to fanboys, though, when we created the first ever console graphics comparison. And,
right, yeah.
And those, which ended up becoming an entire industry that now Digital Foundry is just a whole site that all it does is comparison.
The Burnout
videos.
Paradise comparison.
Right, where we had the
Sparks.
We had the wrong clip in for 2 seconds, and people saw the Xbox control scheme on the screen where it was supposed to be PlayStation, and oh my god. I ended up doing an interview with Kotaku over that, Matt. That's how pathetic it was, that people thought we were jimmying that stuff. It literally was just an honest mistake by our video editor, and I was out that day and wasn't checking edits, and the person who checked the edit instead of me didn't catch it. And that's all it was.
Yeah, it happened.
And I had to sit on the phone. Kotaku would not believe it. They're like, no, come on. You didn't make that. You guys don't make mistakes. I'm like, we do make mistakes, and we absolutely made a mistake. I don't know what else to tell you, bro. So anyway, to answer your question, we didn't engineer content to appeal to fanboys, but some of the content we made, fanboys loved, and they loved the graphics comparison videos. Well, it depended if you were an Xbox fan or a PlayStation 3 fan for the most part, because Xbox 360 won pretty much every one in the early going.
Yeah,
so.
it was Burnout Paradise also came to mind largely because it's the only one that PS3 won.
Right.
Like, because it had better sparks.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was I remember the NeoGAF thread that the title of the Burnout Paradise official thing was PS3 was Sparks Let Me Touch You.
Yeah. Well, the crazy part was
that.
I refused to do the interviews at first, like when people started reaching out to me about it, because it became a big stink on like NeoGAF and whatever. And I was just like, I'm not even going to qualify this by doing an interview about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I put out a tweet that explained it. We put out an official tweet on GameTrailers account that explained it. I'm like, there's nothing else to say. Any interview is going to be me sitting there trying to convince you that I've told the truth with that tweet. It's like, what's the point? But my boss was like, no. You're going to talk about this. You need to go do the interviews because we're getting egg on our face and blah, blah, blah. He didn't really understand how the industry worked. And it was my boss. So I went and did the interview. So, but yeah, that's the only content we really made that was for fanboys. Mighty Pony Girl says, especially now with Steam refunds, a consequence for accidentally paying money for a game you don't want is zero. Yeah. Khalid Twilai says, I haven't heard of NeoGAF in forever. No, it is not still a worthwhile forum to visit.
It is a cesspit of dog shit.
Do not go there. Retro Modern Gamer says, why not just pull the video and re-upload it? That's what we did. Yeah, we absolutely did. We fixed it.
Things on the internet are forever.
Yeah.
That happened. The one thing that happened to me on was I think it was Gamescom or something. It was some big convention where one of those things where you have all the segments of tons of games in every platform. And in one of the things was, I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition, and somehow they put the producer and the editor put in footage from The Witcher, and I didn't catch it, and it went up, and of course EA and CD Projekt are like, what the fuck is that? And like my boss was making fun of me because those are my two. He was like, oh my god, he didn't catch it. I was like, it was like 3 episodes. There's like 100 games in this fucking episode. It was a guy with a sword. What do you want? Like, I don't. Yeah. I just wanted to go home.
Dealing with fanboys is a job requirement. Yeah. It just really is part of the job.
We didn't have to do any interviews on that because nobody gave it. Nobody was watching the show by that point, other than the publishers.
Yeah.
But the other big thing I missed, I remember, was there was an interview. I think it was some Stardock thing. I don't remember what game it was, but it was Stardock, that company, Stardock Industries or whatever. They did a
lot of space.
Galactic Civilizations and Sins of a Solar Empire. And somehow the lower third for Stardock said Starcock.
I knew where it was going.
And none of us caught it, and it aired. And luckily Brad Wardell, the owner of Stardock, thought that was actually pretty funny. So we just changed it for future reruns. But yeah, for one airing, they were Starcock.
Okay, that's great. So anyway, yeah. How did we get on this topic again? We started with Spider-Man.
Fanboys. Fanboys, Shane. Fanboys take you anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I know people used to hang on every word said by people on bonus round and cite that good times. Yeah, those were good times. I love shooting bonus round. It was always a good time because we always had people from the industry coming in to shoot. So you always catch up with them. They always give you some scoops on some stuff off the record before we would record. It was always a good time. So anyway, Marvel Spider-Man 2 coming to PC late January, barely a year after it released for PlayStation 5. Next in our headlines, remember Concord? We barely knew ye. PlayStation's hero shooter that lasted less than 2 weeks, had less than 1,000 concurrent players on Steam, was taken down. Sony issued refunds for it.
Here they are being fired from their from their online game.
Yeah. Well, everybody, actually, I don't know if everybody thinks it's dead. It feels like it's split down the middle, whether people think it'll come back as free to play or whether
I don't know how you rehabilitate
it. Feels hard. Yeah, Pachter does think it will come back. He's like, it's hard to just write off.
Yeah, it's hard to just, and also it feels like if they weren't going to try to rehabilitate it, they would have fired a lot of people.
Right, and we haven't heard about that studio being laid off. That
studio has not been gutted.
Yep,
so.
And here's a little nugget of news. This week, there have been Steam updates coming to the game over the last couple weeks. These underground, unknown updates have been being made to Concord on Steam. It could just be a rogue employee who's like still got access to Steam and is uploading stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly know some people who, when they got laid off, they still had access to the Steam page for months.
I mean, it could be something like that.
Or it could maybe they're just updating it so every time you look at this, you look at it, it just gives you a giant middle finger.
That could be too with ASCII art. But anyway, it appears that there's something going on with Concord, and now that would devastate people who have spent. Someone told me that on eBay, copies of this game are going for like $2,000.
Yeah, there's a lot. They're going for a lot.
Imagine if you paid that and then the game gets re-released.
Yeah. Well,
can't say I'll feel too sorry for the people who get burned by that one. But although I tried to go find a copy.
If I could have found one, I would have for cheap or whatever.
Yeah, I tried, but they were all gone by the time I really tried to do it. But anyway, it's really hard to think that you would spend, and I don't think they spent half or $400 million on it either. I think it's a little bit less than that. But even so. Even if you spent $150 million on this game, like, it's so hard to just let it die after 2 weeks. Like, you didn't even give it a chance, really.
Well, because mathematically they knew it was there was no way.
They know. I mean, they know the data better than anyone, and they knew where it was headed. But they could have just been like, okay, the game's going to sit like this for a while. You guys can keep playing it or not play it, whatever. We're going to go back to the lab, and we'll talk to you guys in 6 months or something. There's other things that they could have done, but they went drastic and just shut it all down.
Clearly, it was in such terrible condition. Like, it was the best decision they could think of was to pull it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how dire that must have looked internally for Sony to just be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, just kill it.
It's crazy.
Way worse stuff has been allowed to fester.
Stay.
Longer than that. I don't know.
I mean, the standards are obviously higher at a platform holder.
Sure.
They don't want that black eye out there.
And you are beholden to the people who paid money for it. Like, it's probably different when it's a free-to-play game that sort of flops.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really owe anyone anything on, like, Star Wars Hunters or whatever, if that underperformed to that degree. I don't think it did. But, like, this one, when you're charging up front,
you're paying for it.
You got to deliver somehow. And I think that's probably, I mean, I assume that's probably part of what the decision was like, if maybe we need to have a whole big revamp and rehabilitation on this, and we need all hands on deck for that. And if we leave it up live, even for the 20 people who are still playing it, like, you still got to deliver content. You still got to upkeep the servers. You still got to be you still have to have a staff actively dedicated to running that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe they just decided it's better use of our resources to pull everyone back in, and everyone can just head down and focus on this.
Yep. We'll see. My guess would be early next year. We'll know whether it's dead for good or not. If it's not, I think we'll get an announcement about what's happening with it. But at least they did refund everyone's money, and there's no harm, no foul, really.
You think they changed the name?
They should.
I mean, it's a terrible name.
It's horrible. Yeah. I think if they bring it back, they will. I absolutely think they will. Yep. So we'll see. But anyway, there's faint signs of life for this game on Steam.
Change the name to Please Play Our Game.
That would be better.
Like, I think leaning into it would be better. Like,
Yeah.
especially with the attitude that the game has anyway. Like, the game's already
Snarky,
Guardians of the Galaxy. So, like, think about how James Gunn would approach this.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I agree with that. So anyway, we'll see. I don't think we'll have to wait too much longer to figure out what's going on there. Just a couple more headlines to go. The next one, Microsoft announced, well, didn't announce, but it was revealed by The Verge that Microsoft is working on Xbox controllers that have the streaming technology for Game Pass built into the controller. So you would buy a controller, plug it into your TV with a USB cable or charge it or whatever and connect with Bluetooth, and then everything you need to stream Game Pass is in that controller as one unit. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't, because I will never touch one. But my main question on that, I guess, is like, what's the battery life on that going to be?
Right. I'll just say
I think
this.
plug it in seems like the solution there.
I'll say this. The DualSense, the expensive, like $200 or $300 DualSense, what's it called? The Edge?
Yeah.
The battery life in that thing should not be on the market, man. The battery life in that thing is literally 2 hours.
Wow.
It is 2 hours. I don't know how PlayStation thought this was a good idea to put that out there. Like, and if you're going to do
the
it...
DualSense already has the battery
poor
life.
battery life.
Great.
Yeah. And if you're going to do this, then you need to make it so you can upgrade the battery if you want to. It is awful. I just play with it plugged in. There's no point in playing with it unplugged.
I mean, I play with all my controllers plugged in now, except for the Switch Pro controller, which just lasts forever.
It does, yeah. Like weeks and weeks. Yeah. It's really crazy. I think it kind of kills two birds with one stone.
I picked the Switch Pro controller up after not touching the Switch for like 4 months, and it's still charged.
Mine, for some reason, if I let it sit, it dies. I don't know why.
I don't know. When I picked it up, it only was half charged, but like when I picked it up for Legend of Zelda recently, I don't remember the last time I played the Switch.
Yeah.
And it was still ready
to
go.
If I let it sit and go to it, it's dead. But
That's how most things will, but Nintendo hardware doesn't do that.
For me, it does with the Pro controller. And like,
I once opened a DS that I'd had in my closet for 4 years, and it was charged.
Now, one thing I will say is that once I'm playing a new Switch game and I charge it to full, that thing lasts that whole month while I'm playing that new Switch game. I don't need to charge it. But if I let it
controllers
sit there,
last pretty good too.
Yeah, but if I let it sit there, like on my entertainment center, just sitting there, off. If I come back like 2 months later, it's completely dead.
That's how most battery chargeable stuff does and should work.
Yeah,
I mean, it wants to off gas basically. Yeah. But a lot of the Nintendo stuff just holds that charge. Like, I bet you if I go find my Game Boy SP, my Game Boy Advance SP, I bet you it'll turn on.
Yeah, I bet it will too. Yep.
And I don't know where that is. I don't remember the last time I touched it, but I bet it will still turn on.
Yeah. The other thing about this report from The Verge is that it mentioned that Microsoft is not done with cloud streaming technology, that cloud gaming on Game Pass is going to get better with less latency than it has right now. I don't know what Microsoft plans on doing there. I kind of thought
when you figure out how to break the speed of light, you let us know. Yeah, there's some other applications we might want to look into for that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if maybe there are some bumps in there that keep it from hitting that full speed that Microsoft can iron out. I don't know.
This is.
But to me,
this is about as relevant to my life as like the NFL stats. It's never going to intersect with my day to day.
Well, I think if they do want something like this to work, a controller with the streaming tech built into the controller, they're going to have to improve the latency on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Cloud gaming. So for it to work, they have the right approach. We'll see if they can actually improve that part of Game Pass. Like you, I'm very skeptical that that's the case. But we'll see. And again, the Verge, I don't think it's ever published something that was not true. So I do trust this information coming from The Verge. And I do think it makes sense. I mean, imagine going into a store and just buying an Xbox controller and not having to buy the $500 piece of hardware. It seems like it might be more inviting to the average.
It also feels like it's going to cost a lot more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to pay for the controller, it'll probably cost $60 or $70 probably. That'd be my guess.
That controller?
Yeah.
I'm saying it's more like closer to $200.
That'd be pointless. They would never do that. They just wouldn't do it. I think.
You need that extra tech in there for the streaming. You need the Bluetooth stability. You need better battery life. That's gonna cost like an Elite controller.
I mean, there's already Bluetooth in controllers.
Yeah, but you're gonna need much more stable stuff than that. And you're gonna need the extra.
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't want to use a Bluetooth controller. Honestly,
No,
you lose
absolutely
latency
not.
there with the
100%
Bluetooth.
No.
Yeah, I agree. They need to use better tech than Bluetooth. But I do think for really casual people who are game adjacent, I think if they walk into a Best Buy and they see a controller there and they're like, "Really? I only have to buy this thing instead of having to buy this huge box for $500?"
No, I think that's going to cost way over 100. Well over 100.
Well, the streaming sticks are only $30. An Xbox controller right now is $60.
Yeah, but you don't want to you want to give people not a reason to buy your other hardware.
Yeah.
It's going to cost like an Elite controller.
Interesting.
That would be
well, that would be a mistake and it would be dead in the water.
No, I agree, but I think
So we'll
I
see.
still think it's going to cost.
Not that
close
Xbox
enough.
hasn't done dumb crap before, so I don't know why I'm thinking that that's the deal breaker. But anyway,
Perceived value.
yeah. But I do wonder too if maybe it's an option for people who are interested in a second console.
It's
an
a
Xbox.
solution in search of a problem again.
But
this person doesn't exist.
you don't think there's somebody who might want to play, let's say Indiana Jones was exclusive and it wasn't multi-platform, that wouldn't want to play a game like Indiana Jones or other Xbox exclusives like the new Fable or whatever, and only spend $70 instead of having to buy a big console?
No.
You don't have to worry about latency really with those games. Like,
That person would not understand what that controller is.
no, I'm saying like a core player who wants
There are no
an
core.
Xbox but doesn't want to spend $500 on it.
Anyone who would settle for that piece of shit is not a core player. Because a core player would know that is going to be an inferior experience.
But with single player games, is it really?
Yes, 100%.
How long has it been since you played Xbox Cloud?
Earlier this year.
Okay, because I just
feels
played it
like
like a
playing
month ago,
underwater.
and I was actually really pleasantly surprised by it.
I'm not. I mean, it's the difference between playing a fighting game next to someone and playing it online. I'm not saying it's unplayable, but it is a different game.
Oh yeah, no one will deny that.
And that is bullshit. The last thing I need is for that. Also, I mean, I know Indiana Jones was chosen, off the
As an
top of your
example,
head,
yeah.
but like I don't want to give that game any more chances to fail on me. Like, feels like you're gonna want every advantage you can get on that one.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Both in terms of that may not be the tightest thing anybody's ever made, and because if it is the tightest thing anyone's ever made, machine games stuff tends to be split-second timing. Like, those Wolfenstein games don't fuck around.
Yeah, they're not easy.
And I would not want that lag introduced into it.
Vincent says there are core players who don't care if that's the best experience.
Yeah, I just don't believe that is a market that is actually there. Not in the numbers that it would require to justify making a whole separate set of hardware for it.
Yeah.
It really feels like it feels like the streaming thing with the movie studios. It's like, I know you believe that there's a revenue stream there and no one's found it yet, but the answer is actually that there's nothing there.
Okay.
The answer is that you're just desperately, because you are part of the ridiculous hyper-capitalist line must go up infinite growth myth, you believe there must be some other market you haven't found, and so instead of because you've given up on innovating and trying to expand on this side of things because you've plateaued in the standard console area, you're just sort of making up ideas about where these magical people that they desperately want to play a video game, but they don't want to buy a console, but they do have a 4K TV, and they do want cutting-edge things, but they don't want to pay that much, but they will pay for this, but they don't have that, but they do have some of the fastest internet you can possibly subscribe to. Like, it just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Like
There's a lot of hoops to jump
The
through.
actual matching use cases for that are in the tens of thousands at best. And it doesn't get any better because the speed of light doesn't change. You're never going to get the same kind of quality out of it. The best... Game Pass is the best implementation of that concept because you install locally.
I am wondering how,
By the way,
the growth is going to come for Game Pass.
The girl I talked to and a couple other people I talked to at that same party while we were talking about the PlayStation 3 and all that, then they mentioned Game Pass. None of them knew that Game Pass wasn't a cloud streaming service. They could download. They all didn't realize you could download the games.
Interesting.
They all
thought it was cloud.
They all thought it was just cloud streaming.
Interesting.
And that's one of the reasons one of them had never subscribed to it.
That's a messaging problem for Microsoft.
So I got you one more subscriber this weekend, Microsoft. There you go. She didn't know. She's like, oh, you can just download and play it offline, and I'm like, yeah, once you have it installed, and like she's like, oh, that's totally different then.
Yeah, I am wondering where the growth is going to come from for Game Pass if this is true. If
I don't know, like, I have no idea how you message that so that doesn't happen.
Right.
There, it doesn't feel like they've not done that.
Well, you just watch the B-roll that we had, and almost all of it was like game streaming.
Yeah, they do try to make it look. I mean, they're basically trying to make it look like the Switch.
Yeah.
Right. They want it to be like, oh, I have the freedom to do whatever I want, wherever I want. Yeah. You know, it's that. I can play my NBA basketball game on the rooftop while everyone else is playing basketball because that's not going to make me look like a fucking loser. What the fuck?
That was from that Switch 1 trailer, the debut trailer for Switch.
That debut. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't effective, but you
remember it still.
I remember it 100%. But one of the reasons I remember it is because everybody looks like a fucking goon.
It's so dumb. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest update on Game Pass and maybe the future of Xbox hardware. We'll see. And then our final story for headlines for episode 408 is that the Analogue 3D was announced this week. It is a 4K Nintendo 64 console that plays. They didn't put out a trailer for this. Don't you think that's crazy?
No, it's Analog.
Did they not put out for the Pocket either?
No, they don't need it.
I guess not. But it is an N64 made by a third-party company that still utilizes all the old accessories for the Nintendo 64, so you can plug your old controllers right into it. It also will use every Nintendo 64 cart ever produced, and it has no region lock, so you can play Japanese carts without having to cut the tabs off of them like you used to have to with the OG hardware. And it is just, I mean, it is the bougie N64.
And there's overclocking in it, so you will be able to play Ocarina of Time at 4K and 60 frames a second.
Yeah. It looks really, really awesome. It is selling for $250, which was the original launch price of the N64. Yeah. And I think they maybe lowered it at some, like maybe Toys R Us to like $200.
It was $200 a year or two later.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
Well, I think when they put out all the candy-colored shells.
Right. Yeah, like the kind of see-through ones.
Yeah, the iMac versions.
Yeah. So you can pre-order this now. Pre-order started yesterday. It is launching in early 2025, and it is $250. Are you going to get this, Matt?
I already pre-ordered it.
I bet. I'm not surprised.
I got up at 8 a.m. yesterday to pre-order because these things sell out, and it didn't even have the decency to sell out by 9 a.m. But no, I ordered 2 of them.
Oh, really?
So
here's my question. So they show in the marketing materials gray ones and black ones. Can you choose a gray or a black one if you want?
There's black and white. There's a black one and a white.
And a white one?
Or a gray, black, and a white one.
Oh, okay. So there are 2 different colors.
Yeah,
and
there
you can
are 2 different
choose.
colors. And then they have special 8-bit dough as the special controllers, which you have to buy through Amazon site.
We saw that in the
black
B-roll.
one sold out instantly, but there will be more. The controllers are not limited. They are making a limited number of these. They will sell out, and then they will make another batch. They've done that with the TurboGrafx, the Duo.
Will the Switch Pro controller work with it?
Yeah, I think the Switch, it's just Bluetooth. So yeah, the Switch, like the Switch N64 controller should work with this. Yeah. Okay. In fact, I think that's what they show with some of the early prototype pictures.
Okay. Here's all the specs for it. If you want to see them all on one screen, they pretty much have spared no expense for this thing.
Yeah. I have all of the Analog systems. I have their Genesis, Super Nintendo, the handheld, which does just about everything you can think of. The PC Engine TurboGrafx Duo one. They are all phenomenal. This is the opposite of cloud gaming. This is super hardware gaming. This is and this will get jailbroken unofficially, quote unquote, a few weeks after it comes out, and you'll be able to put every N64 game ever made on an SD card and play it that way too.
Is there an SD card slot on this thing?
Yeah, they all have SD
Once you do that, it's fair game.
Oh yeah.
Because why else would you put it in there?
Yeah. And this just, but again, it is fun. I mean, I have a giant shoebox full of N64 cartridges. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, this is one of I love the other ones, like having the convenience of all the handheld stuff there, being able to play, Metroid Fusion with super smooth and looking really good on a modern screen. Great. I have the dock that lets you play the Analog Pocket on the big screen. Fantastic. But this, being able to play Jet Force Gemini and Body Harvest at steady frame rates, like,
all
are you
rare
kidding
games,
me?
yeah.
You got my fucking money already at that. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah.
I'm just thinking about all the N64 games I can play without all the Rogue Squadron, Hybrid Heaven?
Yeah, I know.
Remember Hybrid Heaven ran at about 17 frames a second?
I love that game. I can't believe they didn't make it a sequel to that. There's no game like it. A fisticuffs RPG. There's no game like it still. Retro Modern Gamer says N64 also has a flash card to SD card to pull all the games on it. I don't know what that means.
Flash cart, basically, a flash cart means it's a cartridge attachment you can buy that you plug the real N64 game into, and then it rips the game. Basically, it's a game ripper, and then puts it on an SD card.
But you can't use that SD card on a stock N64, though.
No, he means like if you were going to do this.
Oh, gotcha. I see. Okay. Khalib Twilight is like in your Jet Force Gemini call out. And Retro Modern Gamer says GoldenEye above 20 frames per second.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ms. Oren says, Matt just sold this to me. There you go. The power of GameFace. We sell stuff here.
And Vincent seems skeptical for some reason. There's
About what?
There's nothing to indicate that this is less capable or less open than anything. No. And the owner of the company has said that there will be quote unquote overclock options for the games.
Okay.
They haven't talked about the specifics on that yet. But I was just playing Sword of Vermilion on the Mega Drive one this week, and it runs better than the original. And there's no compatibility problems because it's FPGA.
I like that they put the 4 ports on the front.
Yeah.
Even though they maybe didn't have to.
I mean, it's such the ports and the Switch design are just such iconic things. Like all you need to see is the front of that thing, and you know what it is.
Yeah.
And you can see the 8-bit DO controller has the you can see there they kind of filed the copyrighted logo off it, but there's the N64 controllers.
Yep. Yeah, there it is.
And you can see the 8-bit DO controller has an N64 kind of layout with the C buttons
and the 2 bigger buttons. Yeah, the BA.
It's gonna be good.
It looks really good.
It's gonna be good. It's I will be a little surprised if it ships in early 2025. I'll be happy if we're playing this by Christmas next year.
Do they usually delay their stuff?
They take a long time.
Okay.
They have traditionally launched much later than they originally planned to. I think the Turbo Duo one was a year late, if I remember right. It was definitely later than it was supposed to be. I can't remember when I ordered that and when I expected it, and finally showed up about this time last year.
Okay.
And look, totally worth it. Like, finally, Rondo of Blood the way it was meant to be, without having to dig out original. I mean, that is obviously a different case, because with that it's like, you need to find a TurboGrafx and a Turbo CD that works, and the fucking the chip, the turbo chip that makes the CD thing work, and make sure all that works, and all the connectors are clean, and make sure the disc works. The biggest problem was that I had it was a brand new in the shrink wrap copy of Dracula X Rondo of Blood.
Oh wow.
Hundreds of dollars. Opened it up to play it on this, and it skipped because it's a fucking CD, and that's what CDs do.
They rot.
CDs
over time will start rotting.
It wasn't rotted, but it wasn't. It's not fully flat anymore.
CDs not for forever.
And let's not.
They never were.
Yeah. Well, and also like there's a weird thing where more precise players have a harder time adjusting to imperfections in discs. This happened last weekend, not this past, but a couple weekends ago. My friend and I he'd never seen Evangelion.
Wow.
So we watched the whole series and the Rebuild movies over the course of like the last year, various weekends. And we were watching my copies of Rebuild 3 and 4, which I'd never watched the discs before. I'd seen 3 in a theater, and I'd never seen 4 before. But 3, my copy of 3, at one point, he has a super high-end 4K, top-of-the-line player, and it was freezing.
Wow.
On this one scene. It wouldn't get past this one scene, so he's like, you know what? Let me put it in the region free player, which is kind of a piece of shit, but it's like a workhorse.
And it worked.
And it worked. No problem.
I'm not surprised.
I'm like, okay, I bet this would play probably just fine in a real Turbo Duo.
Yeah.
But this is such a high-end piece that it's getting hung up on the flaws.
Yeah.
And, eventually they jailbroke it, and you just put the ROM in there.
Neither here nor there.
Who cares?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I have hundreds of music CDs. I have hundreds of games on CD. I have not had a single CD rot. Have you?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I haven't found one yet.
I mean, you want to go through the 1,500 CD games I have downstairs, we could probably find a couple.
You might find a couple, yeah. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought CDs were going to basically self-destruct at like 20 years or whatever.
I mean, if it happens, it happens, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
But it's like very much a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the Analogue 3D, a 4K Nintendo 64 for $250. Do you remember what the website is so people can go and get it?
Oh, it's like analog.co or something like
And
that.
it's spelled Analogue.
GUE.
Yeah. Corey Film,
And
thank you for
you
Twitch
can also
Prime.
get, they have Analog Pockets, and Analog Pocket is really one of the
Really
best
awesome.
things they have.
Yeah.
Like, you can play anything handheld you can think of in there, every imaginable Game Boy thing, not DS, but anything before the DS. There are attachments to let you play Game Gear and Turbo Express and Neo Geo Arcade, or Neo Geo Pocket rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you jailbreak it and do the emulator thing, you can. There's a app you just download on the computer that the fan, the community has made, and it pulls everything in you can think of that's compatible, and it just automatically puts it in format on the SD card. You plug the SD card into your Analog Pocket, and boom, you
Kaboom.
have everything. It's all set up for you to put games on. It basically sets up folders. It doesn't put any ROMs or anything on it.
Yeah.
But it just sets everything up. So here's everything you can possibly emulate. Here's where the games go. Do whatever you want. It does arcade games. It does.
It's just basically
Super
it emulates
Nintendo,
everything.
NES, Master System, Genesis. Like, it can all be just right there in your pocket. The screen is amazing. You
Hardware is
get a dock
awesome,
you
screen's
get a dock
awesome.
to put it. It does output to the TV.
They make really good stuff.
It is one of the best things I own.
Yeah.
So the Analog Pocket, huge recommend.
Great company. Yep.
This should be great too.
Yep. There you go. That's the
you're
Analogue
an N64
3D for $250. Go pre-order it now. We're about to get into, and this time I really mean it when I say it.
Now do a Saturn one.
Yeah.
Please do a Saturn one.
Yeah.
There's not enough people that care. about
Yeah.
Saturn
Unfortunately,
for them to do a
and
Saturn
I don't think there's enough games for it either.
Probably not. I would love to see them do a PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And like just sneak the Saturn in there, because as long as you got a disc drive,
Sideload
just,
it.
yeah.
I can see that maybe.
I just want to play Dragon Force on a real. I mean, I can play it on my. I have a thing where you just put the disc of Dragon Force in my PC and it just plays it.
Right.
Yeah. It's great, but I would love it in a little box.
Yeah.
It would
Of course.
It would be cool.
Okay. This time we really are coming back to the bulk of the show for GameFace 408. But before that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
I was just about to say, we had not seen the head of LS Cream in our chat for a while, Stevens Charles. And as soon as I thought that, I looked up, and there was a message from Lesteved in our chat. What's up, Stevens? Hope you're doing good. I have an interesting anecdote about LS Cream. So I was on my fantasy football league from my Philly league text chat yesterday, and everybody's freaking out because this whole season is just a nightmare. If you're an NFL fan, you know what I'm talking about. Like, everybody is injured. Literally everybody's injured. It's insane what's been happening. And everyone's just crying the blues, talking about, draft. I thought my team was so good, and injuries have just decimated my team, and blah, blah, blah. And then one of the people in the chat was like, hey, who left this LS whatever at my house? And I was like, I did. And they're like, he says, my wife loves that S. And I was like, and he's like, now we're like trying to find it because she wants it all the time. And I was like, well, I'm boys with the person who actually make. And then of course they're like, well, can you ship me bottles and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I just want to say I took a bottle of LS Cream to one of my drafts in Philly this year. And like 2 months later, somebody brings it up in our text thread about somebody left this liqueur at their house from draft, and they're like, and now my wife is hooked on it. So anyway, LS Cream is awesome. I don't know how much more I have to say it. Literally, everyone who tries it loves it. Go to creamls.com/sifted. Make sure you use that URL. Go there. You can find out how to buy it locally. You can find out how to get a bottle shipped to you so you don't have to go anywhere and it just shows up on your door. Either way, you're going to love it. Go to creamls.com/sifted. And
Retro Modern Gamer says that yes, the Saturn, Mr. FPGA can do Saturn, but it's like
wonky,
a little wonky. Saturn's hard to replicate, even in FPGA, because it was such a kludgy, weird system.
Yeah.
And also Mr. FPGA is, I mean, Mr. FPGA is great, but it's like the beater car that you can like tweak and work on your own time. Yeah,
right.
It's like the hot rod you built in your garage.
Yeah.
And like Analogue is like the Ferrari.
Right.
You know, it's a different boutique experience. Yeah. There's a difference there, and I do like the Analogue experience. But Mr. FPGA is great. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I just get tired of tweaking shit.
Analog, I'll just say this: when you hold something in your hand that it makes, you feel the quality.
Yeah.
As soon as you hold it, you're like, "Oh, this is expensive."
I will say it can be pricey, especially if you're buying accessories, but you do get what you pay for.
It's great stuff.
I'm endlessly impressed by those guys.
Yep. Okay, it's time to get on with the bulk of GameFace episode 408. We're going to kick things off with the Xbox Partner Showcase that happened this past week. It was a big third-party preview, by the way. Remember, we had a little debate over whether Stalker was going to be there. Was not.
Although they did put Stalker stuff out.
Did they?
That was a pretty good interview about the difficulties of.
Oh yeah, they're doing the rounds right now. Yeah, that interview was awesome.
My guess is that what I'd heard had kind of crossed wires with like.
That makes sense.
They're putting stuff out this week, and that got met because maybe that's the partner. You know, someone confused it with stuff coming from the partner show.
Yep. Well, that makes sense. And here's the irony of this whole event, Matt, was the same day that this event happened, Sean Layden, who used to be the head of PlayStation Worldwide Studios, I guess, what was it, 4 years ago? 5 years ago he left, roughly?
Traitor.
He left. And he used to be the guy that'd be on stage for their press conferences at E3 and blah, blah,
Sometimes I forget, because sometimes he'll come like, why is the PlayStation guy talking about Xbox? Oh, right. He doesn't work there anymore.
Yeah. He was at some event, and someone was interviewing him, and he basically said that the lack of AA games will be the death of the industry. He said a bunch of other stuff, too, that, like, the hardware race is over, and we've reached the point where, like, there's no console wars because no console's ever going to be a big leap again. He's talked about that stuff, but
it's just brand versus brand now. It's not hardware versus hardware anymore.
Yep. But he said that the lack of AA games, the cheaper games that come out more frequently, will ultimately kill the industry.
Right.
And
but
then,
also the response to those games, like Unknown 9.
Yeah.
Like, that is a AA game.
It is,
That's absolutely. But everyone acts like it's a fucking insult to the medium, and it's like, we used to get like 4 of these a week.
And people didn't complain.
And people didn't whine all the time. It was something you played while you were waiting for the next AAA.
Well, the good news is, if you do like these types of games and you think these games are important to the industry, this Xbox Partner preview, that's all it was.
Yeah.
The whole thing was AA games.
Yeah, the tagline for this could have been like,
Yep. Because that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
There was nothing big in this thing, but they did announce a lot of new games.
Yeah, there was a lot of,
Yeah, okay. And we're going to talk about all those games. We're going to go through this very quickly because, again, there weren't a bunch of big games, but there were a bunch of announcements. And I think there's some stuff that people are interested in at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I have these stacked in the order of games that impressed me. Now, you maybe think I'm crazy and think that I've done a horrible job stacking these games, but this is the order of the games that I liked
I can
most.
already see someone from here, and I agree with your first one, and I disagree with your second one.
Okay. Well, I knew you would.
I knew you would, yeah. Of course
The
you
first one, though, the game that impressed me the most out of all of them is a game called Mouse P.I. for Hire. It is basically like a Disney cartoon first-person shooter. It's like if Cuphead was a first-person shooter, basically, but it's not colored. It's all in grayscale. This game blew my freaking mind. The animation in this is absolutely incredible. Now, it's basically like a 3D game, but the enemies are 2D sprites. So they have to, like, do the whole rotate the sprite so it's always facing you thing where you mix 2D with 3D. But who cares? This game looks incredible.
I mean, that's appropriate for the subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
But wow, man. Like, where'd this game come from?
Cuphead, probably.
It's actually not from the same studio.
No, it's not, but I guarantee you this doesn't exist without Cuphead.
Yeah, and there's also like a detective element to this where you're taking pictures and investigating crimes, but what's blowing my mind is the first-person shooting and the visuals.
I'm a little skeptical of it because it seems to be all hit scan, which is not something I'm a fan of. But, you can't argue with the look. I mean, it even drinks out of the Cuphead cup.
I know, but it's not.
They're acknowledging their roots.
Yeah, where the inspiration came from. But of all the games that were shown during this partner preview, this is the one that caught my eye the most. It's coming out in 2025. I believe it's just, as of right now, I think maybe a Switch version of this is coming, actually.
I would imagine this would be on everything.
Yeah. I don't know if, like, Xbox One and PS4 have been announced yet, but my guess is eventually it will come there. But I do know it's coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and I think Switch. I should have written that down, and I did not, and I apologize for that. But, again, this is called Mouse PI for Hire. Not exactly a catchy name, but when you have visuals like this, do you need a catchy name? Probably not. No. So this is the game, to me, that was the most impressive of everything that I saw. And then next up, and a game that I know Matt does not care about, is a game called FBC Firebreak. It is a cooperative shooter set in the Control universe. Well, it's PvE. This game used to be called Project Condor. We've known about it for quite a while. In fact, I kind of thought this thing might have been canceled because we knew about it.
Probably should have been
quite a while ago. And then they finally debuted it here. And probably for most people, this was the biggest game of the show because people have wanted to see what this is going to be. Like, it's hard for me to see, other than like the shots where they use a lot of red, that this is it's set in the Control universe.
Yeah, because it's not story driven. It's just another fucking co-op shooter.
Yeah,
like it's so utterly not what I want from Remedy. I can't even begin to describe it to you. Like, this is not the interesting part of this universe.
Yep, I mean, you're basically just taking on all the baddies from the oldest house. I don't know what kind of context, if it will have some semblance of a story.
I assume it will.
Cooperative shooters are a little more ripe for that than competitive shooters are. I think the game looks good.
Yeah, it looks nice.
As far as its visuals are concerned and everything. This is also coming in 2025.
I'll read the wiki article.
Yeah, I'd be surprised, actually, if this does end up coming in 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if this is delayed. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of games like this are delayed.
Don't waste any more time on this shit.
After what happened with Concord, I have a feeling publishers are going to be a lot more cautious with games like this going forward. We'll see. But again, this is a 3-player co-op game set in the Control universe. If you like the Control games, the Control was at least my game of the year it came out. Control 2 is in development right now, and apparently, according to Remedy, going pretty well. But Remedy, I don't think, to develop this 100%. I know it is working on it, but I don't think it's 100% in-house. I think maybe they have like a support studio working on it as well. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, I see games like this now, and I'm very skeptical of them. I'm like, oh, another hero-driven multiplayer-ish shooter thing. Like, is it going to find a place in the market? I don't know.
And also, like, is it going to find a place with the people who love the Remedy's
Control.
other games?
Yeah.
Because this is not the Remedy audience.
It's not in their wheelhouse at all. And even somebody who likes Control.
Yeah.
Like, does this appeal to them?
No. I don't see why. I mean, it's not...
I mean, the other thing, too, is that, like, Control...
Also, with that fucking name, who the hell is going to know that that's related to that? What a terrible
Nobody will
name.
ever know.
Mouse PI for Hire is a terrible name.
You're right. It is worse. You're absolutely
FBC.
Right.
I mean, I know FBC means, Bureau of Control, but it's like...
No one's going to pick up on that. No.
Firebreak sounds like the most boring paramilitary shooter you could possibly think of.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, too, is that Control sold well. It didn't sell gangbusters, so how many... Do you have enough fans to support a game like this?
I mean, it had legs, but it also, it's not like Alan Wake 2 blew the doors off the sales charts either. It's so it's just... I don't get it. Like, it's like, this is not where your strength is. It's not what you've built this universe on. It's not what the people who consume your stuff and obsess over your stuff want to play, from what I can tell, because those are different audiences. Mm-hmm. And it's the riskiest space in gaming right now.
It is.
So what are you doing? I
don't know what Remedy's thinking.
It feels like momentum, just inertia from like when you started development on this. It wasn't as risky a play.
Yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of games are in that position right now.
But it's just sort of that thing where I was like, and I'm sure it's not because it's a different thing and it's a joint with another company and da-da-da. But it's like, every time Remedy puts something out, everyone sort of like holds their breath, like, is this going to be the thing that kills Remedy? And it's just like, like
I hear you.
worry about it.
Yeah, because their games don't sell all that well.
Not really, which is a crime because, I didn't like Alan Wake all that much, Alan Wake 2 all that much, but I'm not going to deny that it was an incredibly well put together piece of work.
It definitely deserved to sell better.
It deserved to do better than it did, 100%.
I agree.
Like, and everything they've ever made deserves to do better than it did.
I agree. Yep.
And they've built a really
Since
compelling
Max Payne,
world. The Remedy verse is a really interesting thing. There's nothing else like it in the gaming.
Yeah.
And like, it would be a shame if it all got shut down at some point because people just don't discover this shit.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they can find an audience for this. I would say there's a non-zero chance this does get canceled before it ever comes out.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the sunk cost of developing it versus the cost of putting it out. Like, I don't know what that would be.
Games like this are getting canceled left and right. Like, you're on SIFTD almost every day. There's a game like this that is like quietly been canned.
Yeah.
So
the real thing is just like, is there anything in this that you think is unique enough to be a selling point that stands out from the rest? And I don't see it in that footage, but I don't. Obviously we're not seeing everything there. I don't know. I'll tell you. I think the canary in this coal mine is Marathon.
Oh yeah.
What happens to Marathon is going to determine.
Well,
what happens
they're
to
going to charge for it. They're going to charge $40 for it. So that might be the death of it right there.
Yeah.
Cinetike says, as a massive fan of Control, this looks like a fun spin-off. Okay. Vincent says it's on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra, so there's a user base. Good point. Mm-hmm. Eth Demon says neither Control nor AW2 broke even. Yeah, I think I thought Control did break even.
I think Control eventually did okay once they put out the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah,
over time.
If it didn't at least break even, I doubt they'd make a sequel.
No, I mean, some of that might just be like it broke even in the sense that we got enough tax breaks that it didn't cost us anything. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Cinetike says they probably reused a lot from Control as far as assets.
Probably, yeah.
Yep. I mean, if you're smart, you should.
Yeah, I mean, it's been too long since I played Control to recognize anything in there
just
directly.
Red.
But like,
red.
Red and gray, yeah.
That's what I.
That's the other thing is like if you don't know Control, you might look at that and be like, why does it all look like that?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yep.
Like why is one of the big shots like a bunch of Post-it notes?
Yeah. Like, seriously though, if you didn't play, you'd have no idea.
If you have, you're like, oh yeah,
you get
Control,
it immediately.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like it's a weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what someone who has no experience with Control thinks of this.
I do wonder too, to Vincent's point about Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, if when this game comes out, if that's still going to hold true though. Like if PlayStation Plus and Game Pass are still going to be this automatic ticket to multiplayer success.
I don't think it's an automatic ticket, but it definitely helps.
It gives you a chance.
It means it's not going to be deserted like Concord was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we'll see. Again, that's FBC Firebreak. Next up, a game called Chronos: The New Dawn. This game is coming from one of our favorite smaller-ish developers, Don't Nod, coming from Bloober Team, which just finished the Silent Hill 2 remake just this week.
And they said they're done making shitty games.
Yeah.
Which is not something I think I've ever heard a developer say before.
No. And I don't think that Don't Nod's games were shitty.
Bloober Team.
Oh, I keep mixing them up. Bloober Team. I mean, their games are like...
Somewhere some Don't Nod people are very upset.
Yeah, they are.
Mixing them up with Bloober Team. No, like, I wouldn't call any of their games shitty that I played.
Yeah, they're kind of niche first-person horror games, but they're not shitty. And obviously...
I think a lot of the stuff in the medium was a misfire. Thematically and textually. I don't think it was a bad game.
Bloober Team references that when it says we don't want to make another shitty game. It says that it screwed up the medium like big time.
They did, but I don't think they did from a technical perspective. I think it was a creative misfire.
Yeah, we're actually going to get to a game here a little bit later in the show that has a lot of similarities with that game.
And they seem like, I mean, I've had limited contact with them because I think I did some interview with them for IGN at E3 in 2019, and we did another thing down the hall because they were in one of those weird little conference rooms, like off in this, not on the floor, they're in the side with all those weird like cubicles that make you feel like you're in hell.
Yeah.
And like they were like down the hall and they came because we were doing something with that shark game. Maneater. And like they came over because we were looking for horror, like, the bloodiest violent games for something that
doing a roundup
IGN
or something.
Was doing, yeah. And they were down the hall and they came over and I'm like, hey, because they were working on the Woods game. What was the thing they were? It was
Vanishers. No,
that
wasn't
was
that.
Not that Bloober.
That
Team.
was Don't Nod.
Yeah, that was Don't Nod. Bloober Team. It was like it was.
They did Layers of Fear.
It was a
and-
license thing. It was it Blair Witch? Were they doing Blair Witch?
Did they do the Blair Witch game?
I thought something like
I
that.
think maybe they did. Yeah.
But they were working. They're like, you want to come see our game because we're violent. We're gory, so we did that. And they were very nice. They're very nice people.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the medium.
I enjoyed it.
I didn't dislike it, but some people didn't think through the ultimate thing that game said about child murderers.
Well,
And,
the other thing too is when you make games like that, and again, we're going to talk about this in a little bit with another game. When you have games that have dual realities, it's very easy to have gigantic plot holes.
Yeah.
When you really start thinking about it, you're like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense or whatever works.
Yeah. Silent Hill kind of usually plays it the safest, where it's sort of like, oh, at some point you just end up in this other reality, and then you end up out of it's kind of
you're not jumping back and forth at will.
Yeah, it's a dream logic thing. Whereas Medium takes the high wire approach of like, you're going to see both things at the same time.
Yeah,
and it's not gonna really match up, right?
Yeah,
and it's just sort of okay. Yeah. Like, I mean, you get a little extra points for degree of difficulty on that, but
let's look
at the
this
fact that
game.
they finally nailed Silent Hill too, by all accounts. I don't think they've got a real chance to like turn their.
I don't think they're
going
to make shitty games from here.
No, I don't. I think they're going to be more careful about that.
Although this game appears very derivative to me. It's like you play as like the bad guys from BioShock, but
this is one of the most boring trailers in this whole show.
Why is the Big Daddy playing chess?
I don't know. And okay, can we just get a moratorium on like pale naked humanoid monsters? Can we just stop that?
Yeah.
Like, we all liked the original Outlast.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
But can we fucking stop?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm so done with the hairless, pale man monster
with
thing.
the unhinged jaw.
Like, you could show me that creature, and I would have no fucking clue what game this was.
Yeah.
Like, I swear to God. Like, I know we all love the necromorphs, but can we move the fuck on, please?
Yeah. This game it doesn't catch your attention.
No, the only unique thing in this is that old lady.
Yeah.
Because you don't see old ladies in games very
Yeah,
often.
you're right. Which is kind of funny.
This
to think
could be
about.
anything. This could be that fucking Capcom game they won't tell us anything about with the astronaut. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. Look, another pile of pale bodies. Like, who gives a shit?
Here's the boilerplate on the game. It's an original survival horror adventure that puts players in the boots of the Traveler, a mysterious individual tasked with finding individuals who died during a devastating apocalypse and extracting them from the past. Okay. I mean, some elevator pitch there.
So the weird guy who kidnapped Wesley at the end of that Star Trek The Next Generation episode?
Maybe.
Wasn't he called the Traveler?
I think he was, actually, yeah. So, look, Bloober Team, on a high note right now with the Silent Hill 2 remake, we'll see what they do with this game. I think it's coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series next year. I'd be surprised if it actually comes out next year, but we'll see. As we know, Bloober Team just wrapped up development on the Silent Hill 2 remake, so might be a little bit later.
At the same time, they're not doing DLC. So.
Yep, yeah, that's true.
But I would imagine you'd want to start working on your next Silent Hill remake, one way or the other.
Yeah, my guess is now Konami's like,
three,
we got all of them. Here you go.
Go. I mean,
seriously.
I would love a remake of one in that style.
It really needs it.
It does.
Yeah, big time. Next up.
And then do 3 and then stop.
Yeah.
Make your own. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
that,
we don't need to remake any of the other Silent Hills after those first 3. We're done. We're good.
That's true.
Don't come at me, Room fans. That game blows.
Yeah.
Wasn't even Silent Hill.
It really wasn't
originally.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. Like, it originally was developed as something else. They're like, we'll just slap Silent Hill on there.
Yeah.
Huge mistake.
Oh, it's a Konami horror game. Everything Konami horror is Silent Hill now.
Yeah. What's that other one? Or is that that's Koei? It's the one with the camera obscura. Fatal Frame. Yeah, it's Koei Tecmo, right? Yeah. Next up, a game called Blind Fire, and it is literally called Blind Fire because it's a first-person shooter that you play in the dark. To me, it looks like you're playing laser tag.
Yeah, it does.
Like later on in the trailer, they pull back and show like the whole arena, and it literally looks like a laser tag arena.
It does. Actually reminded me of the X Defiant, that one map.
Oh yeah.
This is just like, this is the most desperate thing I've ever seen. You can see the people making these like meaningless, endless online shooter things just flailing for a unique selling point.
Yeah.
Like
ours is in the dark.
it's like, this one's in the dark. This one has portals. This one has Ubisoft characters. Like, who gives a shit?
You're right. They're reaching.
This this literally looks like going to Qzar.
Yeah. This also costs money, by the way. It's an $8 or $9 game.
And every single person in that lineup could be from Watch Dogs Legion.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't like. There's nothing. Everything just looks like something else.
I feel like everything in this whole show looked like something else.
Yeah,
other than Mouse PI for Hire. But that looked like Cuphead.
It looked like Cuphead, which looked like 1930s cartoons. It's like,
yeah.
There's nothing original under the sun, kids.
Yeah. This one is described as a brand new first-person arena shooter that turns off the lights for players. You'll need to rely on your senses, equipment, and abilities if you want to survive.
You're going to need to rely on your HDR balance capability is what you're going to need to do.
And it's actually out on Xbox Game Preview right now if you want to give it a go. And when it does come out, I think it's coming out like this week or next week. It's like $8. So it's going to be a paid game. It's not free to play.
Are there like laser tag or paint? I haven't been to a laser tag or a paintball arena in a very long time. Has anyone done that where they just put mannequins around?
I haven't seen that.
That feels like it would be pretty effective.
Yeah, definitely. I would just
like, that is a pretty good idea. I don't know if that's a thing they made up or if that is actually a thing in like
I've never seen it.
Existing.
But last year, I actually did see a laser tag arena. I was hanging out with my nephew. I took him to this arcade, and he was begging me to play laser tag, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. It was like $40 to play laser tag. There was like nobody in line. I'm like, it's going to be me versus you for like $40.
Yeah, it used to be $5 to play Qzar back in the day.
I was like, sorry, buddy. I'm like, let's go play some more VR games. And we did.
I think the Qzar. I mean,
he did.
The Qzar that I got kicked out of in college still existed in Concord Concord again.
Mm-hmm.
I got kicked out for lasting 4 hours on 1/4 on X-Men: Children of the Atom.
Awesome.
Some kid started crying because I beat him, and his mom had him kick me out.
It's hilarious.
Iceman takes no chip damage. I'm sorry, he doesn't know how to do anything else but throw a fireball. Fuck off. But yeah, you could go in and play that. And like I remember there was these two dudes who would just, all they did was stay there all day, every day, and play laser tag. And they would sit there like vultures. They just sit there and drink soda. And when they saw people lining up to go play, they'd join in and play. And they were like the troll, and they did that thing where they held the gun against their sensor and they shot like that so you couldn't hit them. And they go in, and then you just see kids come out crying at the end of it because none of them could score any hits.
Or they'd also like run into them and knock them down.
They do that, yeah. I'm sure they did. I never went in with them, but like
in college,
you just see a birthday party of kids go in, and then they all come out like.
In college, we would get drunk and we'd go play laser tag. We'd drink we'd just pound a 40 in like one drink and just go play and be out of your mind for like 45 minutes playing laser tag. That was fun.
That was fun, yeah.
Yeah, but not anymore. So anyway, that's Blind Fire, and it's not going to be free to play. It's going to cost $8. I think if you're only going to charge $8, you probably should just go free to play.
Yeah, $8 is a strange.
It's really weird. Yeah. Next up, a game that now in hindsight I should have stacked way higher in this discussion, Subnautica 2.
Oh, yeah.
It should have probably been second or third.
Subnautica 2 feels a little out of step with the rest because it's a known quantity to a bona fide 5 million plus selling hit. Like this is different from the others because it's like, oh yeah, 100%. Like I'm in.
This looks like it has way more personality than the first one.
Maybe.
I mean, you're right. I could be wrong.
I mean, there are technically characters in the first one. You just never see them because it's all first person.
Right.
You won't see whoever this guy is.
I don't remember trailers for the first one having people in them.
I don't think
mostly
they did.
just underwater wildlife.
They didn't have the money for cinematic stuff for the first one.
They do now. And this is a direct sequel to Subnautica. It's coming to Xbox Series and PC. It's not announced for PlayStation yet. And it will also be in the Xbox Game Preview program in 2025. And it's, other than that, it pretty much is like the first game. You get to explore environments underwater, you encounter creatures, you dive into oceans, except it is set on an entirely brand new alien planet. So it does take place in a different setting.
Which is weird because that fish is from the first game.
You're right, yeah. Which I wonder if they're trying to say there. I mean, that's the first shot of the trailer. and look at him paying attention to it.
Yeah.
I think it means something.
My guess is that it starts on the planet from the first game, and whatever happens there with that giant monster transports you to the other planet.
Maybe.
Or another dimension.
Yeah.
Something happens.
First Subnautica is really good. It's like a survival
great.
game is in the water, basically. There's really no other survival game like it. And so it definitely deserves a sequel, and I'm glad that it's
That's
getting
some
one.
of the most satisfying progression in a game like that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like when you finally build that big submarine, you're like, this is amazing.
I did it. Yeah. Because you had to work, man. It wasn't easy either. And I'm not a big survival game guy, but
Neither am I.
I played this one. I really enjoyed this one.
Yes.
It might be the survival game I've played more than any other.
Yeah, I would say same.
Yeah.
I played it twice. I don't play any survival games. I play very few things twice.
Yeah, Matt and I both love the first Subnautica, so keep that on your radar. Coming at least to early access in 2025. We'll see if it actually releases in 2025.
And you get to scan so many fish.
That's true. Yeah, it's got scanning in it. I forgot
scanning.
about that. Yep. Next up, a game called Mistfall Hunter. You know there had to be at least one Souls-like in this presentation. But this is a little different. This is a Souls-like PvPvE extraction RPG. We are really starting to split hairs here.
Just shoot me at this point.
And it looks like there's a big mechanic as far as like the elemental stuff is concerned as well. The boilerplate for this says, set in a ruined world that was the battleground for Ragnarok. Mistfall Hunter blends third-person action and tactical competition with the alluring lure of earning cool loot and slaying deadly monsters.
Yeah, I'm also right alongside the naked, pale humanoid monsters. I'm gonna put Norse mythology. Like no more. Like we're good. We're full up.
I feel like games are just running out of stuff, man, and they're not coming up with enough stuff on their own anymore. You're right. I just feel like everything part of it is that we've played games for so long, Matt, that a lot of stuff is derivative for us that may not be for the 15-year-old or whatever, but you know, the people who listen to GameFace and watch GameFace, they're in our age range, and this stuff is all derivative for them too. Like it's really hard to like I could show you this footage and like you could say it's 20 different games, and I'd be like, okay, I would not be shocked if that were in that game that you just said. Like and then this is all Elden Ring-ish. Like it's just this whole.
Well, it's like one of those like weird chud dipshits who was talking about like no one wants these characters that look like this game. No one cares about. I don't remember what game it was.
Right.
And
It
then
doesn't matter.
And they showed another picture, another screenshot of some. She's got like a mask on and like weird like armor on, but her boobs are hanging out of her armor. And he's like, that's what gamers want. And I'm like, I have no idea what fucking game that is. And it turned out it was the First Descendant. And I played the First Descendant for like 15 hours, and I had no idea that's what that screenshot was. Yeah. That should tell you something.
That's crazy, actually. I will say this. I mean, I like the creature designs in this. I'm not a Souls fan, so I probably won't ever play it.
I like the creature design, but it's because it reminds me of Bloodborne.
Right.
That's what they,
with a lot of the fur shading.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
It just makes me wish somebody would do a Bloodborne remaster or Bloodborne 2, which they're not gonna, but like.
And so instead, you're probably going to have to settle for these.
I'm not playing this shit. That's not Bloodborne. That's just more Viking crap.
But Matt, you're going to have to play it because I won't.
No, I don't need to do this.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Nightwing 3060 says
I'm done with the soul shit. Unless From's not making it, I'm out.
Why mess with the rest? Yeah, I can understand that perspective. I mean, they make the best games.
Like, you want my opinion on this game? It's not as good as Elden Ring.
And I think that's probably safe to say.
You want my opinion on any Souls game from now on? It's not as good as Elden Ring.
Right.
Just go play Elden Ring.
You're right. And it's big enough that like you can play it for like the rest of your life. Nightwing 3060 says maybe they should start looking at some African lore. Well, no, then you have Tales of Kenzera, and the Chuds will go after that.
That's woke, so you can't do that.
Woke, so you can't do that.
No, I would be super down for that. I mean, anything, any new mythology, anyone.
Seriously, I mean, it's just getting to that point.
Anything.
I know. I hear you, man.
Unknown 9 is a little refreshing because there's some Indian culture in that, where it's like, oh wow, this is not something you see all the time. That's
why I enjoyed playing the Ubisoft's Avatar game, because it felt different from all the other stuff we're playing.
What was that one? The one I hadn't played it when we talked about it on the show. Was Indara? Where you're
Indica?
Indica, yeah. Where you're the Russian nun.
Yeah,
and like that has different mythology.
Yeah.
Eastern European stuff.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's out there, but they're afraid people won't latch onto it. I mean, the bets are so big.
Pick out a Native American thing.
I know.
And go with
I'm done with all that stuff. But
Aztec, Incan. Like, anything.
I know. It's a shame, man.
How about a horror game set in, like, Mexico? with like La Llorona,
It's
or
almost like
or that fucking island with all the dolls on it, or something like anything.
It almost feels like Assassin's Creed has to do it before someone else will do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Let them be the litmus test. They'll spend all the money and they'll focus test this setting for us. And then if people buy it, then we'll make our game around it. It's very weird. But anyway, that game is called Mistfall Hunter. It is also coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And then the final game that I feel like is worth mentioning from the showcase is a game called The Legend of Baboo. It's just basically a boy and his dog, the video game, which, hey, if you are a boy who grew up with a dog, you know it's probably going to make you cry. So it is an action-adventure, and this is actually inspired by fables passed down through the generations. I think it may be Slavic or something. Maybe? I do think that this has a different origin for its lore, at least.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because we're not getting that anymore. And here's the boilerplate for this. It's set in a magical land terrorized by an ancient evil entity, described as a heartfelt action-adventure centered on a boy and his dog. Players can control young protagonist Sapir, and his lovable dog Baboo as they clash with demonic invaders. Okay. The dog angle, good.
Yeah, it's Neva with 3D.
The rest, yeah.
I mean, we'll see. It kind of depends how it plays, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, if you play as well.
It's an action-adventure. It's not an action RPG. And those are kind of refreshing now.
Yeah. It's like if it plays as well as like Kena and the Bridge of Souls or whatever, like you got potential here. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, the dog's nice.
Yeah. And there you go. Those are the big notable games from the Xbox Partner Showcase from October 2024. Not a great show. If I gave that thing a letter grade, C-, D+, no real big games in there. It does, if you're looking at this and wondering, like, hey, what's going on in third-party land for Xbox? It's not inspiring.
No, it's not.
If this is your big third-party partner showcase, something's going on, man.
And I mean, it looks like, also just looks like third-party in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's not like a Sony third-party partner showcase would be any better than this. I don't think.
I really wish I could see sales numbers for physical Xbox games. I would be really interested to see that figure. Like, if anybody is buying physical games for Xbox at this point.
I don't know.
It doesn't seem like it, but I could be wrong. So that's all anecdotal.
I haven't bought a physical game in a very long time for anything. So.
Yeah. So anyway, I give it a C-, D+. What's your letter grade?
C-.
Roughly the same.
You'd probably drop into the D's if Subnautica wasn't in it.
Yeah. That was definitely one of the highlights. And Mouse PI for Hire was a big highlight for me. But the rest of this stuff is just like... washes over me, and I already even noticed it got there. So the AA mark is still alive. It may not be thriving, according to Sean Layden, but it's still there. This showcase definitely proved that. It also proved to me that maybe Sean Layden is full of crap. Because if these are the games that we need to keep the industry healthy, I disagree. I don't think these are the games that we need to keep the industry healthy. Derivative games that are made more quickly, but are not as good as the games that they're ripping off.
I think they used to be. Like, he's not wrong that used to be kind of the underlying staple.
They would try new ideas
schedule.
And things like that because the risk was lower.
But all that has shifted. The indie market didn't exist then.
Yep.
Like, all the fresher stuff goes to the indie stuff now.
Yep.
So, like, is the indie stuff on the level of these games? No, because they're independently funded and they don't have the budgets to kind of do what some of these games are doing in terms of tech. But is anything in that more interesting than what Neva does in the first 10 minutes? Not really.
Yeah. Is Neva good?
It's fine.
The reviews are mixed.
It's fine.
Okay. We'll talk about it next week. But...
It's repetitive.
Okay.
But it's gorgeous.
Okay.
The heart is there. The hand is a little... The hand can only form a fist so many times before you're sort of used to what it does. Let's put it that way.
So I talked a few weeks ago at this point about how there are things in video games that happen that, you notice that you play games a lot. And I talked about how you walk up and the birds take off. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I've noticed that happens a lot, the clenched fist.
Yeah.
The shot where it goes to the fist and you see the fist go like this. Mm-hmm. It's in so many games. It's like in every game. It's just funny how there are tropes like that. It's like, oh, he means business now. He clenched the fist.
It's very Ghibli inspired. Mm-hmm. It's very much a Mononoke, Spirited Away kind of inspired game, and it has some
sounds good to me.
Some striking visuals, but at a certain point, you're like, you really feel like you've done everything it has to show you.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, I'm only halfway through.
That sucks. Okay, we're gonna share our first review of GameFace 408. We have 4 reviews in today's show. Quick clock check. I think we're okay. None of the 4 games are gigantic, but they're all, I think, worth discussing. And the first one we're going to discuss...
And I haven't played any of them, so I'm not going to be babbling about any of it.
Well, you need to ask me questions.
Right.
That'll help. The first one we're going to talk about...
But you get fewer tangents.
Okay.
Because I don't have any thoughts on any
You
of
might, though, as I start talking about them. We'll see. The first game we're going to talk about is Super Mario Party Jamboree. Obviously, it is a Switch exclusive because it is a Nintendo game. The game does sell for $60. It is not a $70 game, which is, I don't know what...
The least they could do.
I mean, I don't know what rhyme or reason Nintendo is using at this point to decide the pricing on games.
Well, what was it? What have they charged 70 for? Just
everything up. Like, once Zelda hit 70, most of its big first-party stuff had been 70.
Echoes of Wisdom wasn't, was it?
I think it was 70.
Did I pay $70 for that?
I think you did, yeah.
The fuck?
But every once in a while, the smaller ones, they do set at different prices, and this one is at $60. However, I will just say right off the top, talking about this game, is that the content in this game probably deserves a $70 price tag more than some of the other games that they're charging $70.
Yeah, Vincent says Tears of the Kingdom's the only first-party game that's $70.
Is that true?
I don't think he's lying. I don't think I would have bought Echoes of Wisdom for $70.
Oh, really?
I really think I don't. I really don't think I would have done that. I would have just told you I'm not doing that.
Okay. Well, I have not really enjoyed a Mario Party game for a while. Like, Mario Party Superstars was the last one that came out.
I have not played a Mario Party game since the N64.
Really?
I played the first one, and that was enough.
Well, okay, if you didn't like that one. But if you did like that one, you would like this one.
I did not like it, but, like, that was enough.
Okay. Well, Mario Party Superstars was a greatest hits, basically, of Mario Party. It was basically all old recycled content and rejiggered for a brand new game. This is a brand new game across the board. Well, there's a couple things from older games, but I'll get to that. But this is a brand new game across the board. But
I have, in fact, seen them all that big before.
I just was that one.
What are you talking about? The Sherman Oaks Galleria is twice that size.
Yeah.
What the hell you thought? Mushroom Kingdom.
There's like 5 malls in LA that are that big. But anyway, so while this is a brand new game, it is really a throwback to like the N64 and GameCube versions of Mario Party as far as like how the rules of the game work. As far as the numbers are concerned, there's 7 different boards in the game, and the boards are incredible. Like, one of the new boards is this like, it's kind of like an archipelago, and as the match goes on, the water rises and falls, and it will cut you off to parts of the map. There's another board where there's like a wiggler in the center, and there's these things you can stop at along the way that ring a bell that make the wiggler move in the center of the map and will create pathways to help you kind of cut off half of the map. And then there's 2 maps that are reused out of the 7. So there's 5 new ones, and then the two old ones, one of them is from the very first Mario Party, and the other one is from Mario Party 2. And they are, like, probably 2 of the best boards that have ever been in Mario Party. So they do a really good job with the boards in the game. There are 22 different playable characters. Perfect timing with the B-roll. There they all are. There's 112 mini-games total in the game. But that's kind of deceiving because there's only, like, 50 or 60 that are actually used if you play the Mario Party board game. And the other mini games are relegated to these other kind of spin-off modes that I'll get to in a little bit. And some of them are good, some of them are bad. Your mileage will vary on those. But don't be fooled by the 112 mini game count. There's really only 50 that you end up using while you're actually playing through Mario Party. And then there are motion-based mini games that have come along since the Wii and the Switch. But, Matt, you can turn those off if you want to. And the funny part is, like, I thought turning those off would make it hard for me to find online games. Nope. Everybody else is turning off the motion-based minigames as well. So let's start talking about the modes. Obviously, the biggest mode is the basic Mario Party mode. And again, it is a throwback to the early Mario Party games as far as how it works. You're on a board, you roll the dice. Before every turn, you have basically 3 options. You can choose to look at the board to see where everybody is and where the star is. You can go and choose from a selection of items, or you can roll the dice. And basically the game is you just roll the dice, you go around the board, you land on spots. Each spot does something different. Sometimes it gives you coins. Sometimes it takes coins away. Sometimes you land on a Bowser spot and it takes you basically to hell where you have to like tangle with Bowser to keep him from stealing your coins. And then sometimes there are hazards, like there's what are the Venus flytraps called in Mario? I forget.
Piranha plants?
Piranha plants. Like there's piranha plants on the maps where if you land there, they kind of eat you and they take some coins, but then they grow bigger. So then the next time somebody lands on that spot, they take more coins from the next guy. So there's like hazards on the map, as I talked about. There's like the bells that you can ring that will alter the map. So the maps are huge, diverse, and pretty awesome as far as like how dynamic they are, as far as how they'll change in the course of the map. Now that can be also annoying as well, because don't forget, the goal of this game is to go around the map and collect stars. So you collect a star, and then another star is quote-unquote randomly populated on the map. There's nothing more frustrating than being a few steps away from a star and somebody ringing the bell and moving the wiggler, and now all of a sudden you can't get to the star. Like, one thing I will say is the screw jobs have not left Mario Party. I guess is the best way I can put it. And they've kind of added to it in a way because you stop at these little shops that are located on the boards and you can buy items that you can use. Some of the items are just like, hey, instead of rolling 1 die, you can roll 2 for a turn, or you can roll 3. But some of the power-ups you can buy are like warp pipes. So green warp pipes will let you like warp to a space where another player is. The gold warp pipe lets you warp to the space before the star. And what I've discovered playing this, and these matches last 2 hours. 2 hours, Matt?
I mean, that's a pretty standard board game length.
It's 2 hours to play an online game of this. And I did not have one time where...
Like, do people last through that whole thing?
And here's the thing, though.
People drop out of a 5-minute fighting game. Like, of course
I'll say this. I've been kind of impressed. Because the game, everybody stays for at least an hour. And then people start to think that they don't have a chance to win.
That's exactly what I was wondering.
But they do. Because this game at the end just gets freaking crazy as far as like how it doles out stars and how it will flip the script at the
Mario
end.
Mario Party's always been very random in that. I mean, it's basically Blue Shell, the board game.
It kind of is. And it still is that way. I think they've done a pretty good job nerfing that stuff, at least to an extent, but not perfectly. And the reason you know that they didn't do it perfectly is because there is a new mode called Pro Rules that wipes out pretty much all the randomness. It focuses on skill-based mini-games only. It gets rid of a lot of the random crap that can happen in the typical board game. So that shows you that Nintendo knows that there are people out there that have kind of tired of the screw job that you get. But the weird thing, Matt, again, is that like people will stick around for an hour. They'll look and they'll be like, oh, I'm so far behind. I only have 1 star and Shane has 3 or whatever. But they shouldn't quit, because this game, no matter how far behind you are, in the last like couple turns, you can go from last to first very easily. I went from last to first on the last turn one time. So if you do get this game, like, don't bail out on matches. Like, you can win them. But again, they last 2 hours. Who wants to play something like this for 2 hours? I don't know. But anyway, you're seeing now the gold... Yeah, there you go. So he just warped to right next to the star. And all you have to do is buy it with golden coins at one of the shops. And like, there was one game that I played where one guy had 3 gold pipes. 3! Because the other part of it too, a big part of Mario Party is like at the end, it's like who has the most coins. That pretty much determines who wins. Well, there's tons of instances in this game where you can steal people's coins. Like some of the Bowsers, sometimes if you land on a Bowser space, like, he doesn't just take your coins, he will actually take like everybody's coins. And then sometimes you land on spaces like a boo space where it's like, choose the person to take the coins from. And guarantee you, if you're the leader of golden coins, they're going to take the coins from you. So there are kind of self-correcting things in the game to try to keep it even. But at the end of the game, it doesn't matter. Anybody can win on the last couple turns. Some people may like that. It drove me bonkers. The new gameplay feature in this is the ability to recruit a partner. So at certain points during a match, Princess Peach will show up. She'll be like, hey, I'm Peach, and she'll land on the map. If you make it to her first, you don't get Peach. It kicks off a series of mini-games where you play for the right to have Peach as your partner. It's like 3 mini-games that you play through with everybody, and if you are the person who gets to the character first, you have an advantage. Like, they'll give you like a little bit of an advantage. Like, one of the mini-games for Peach is you're carrying all these presents, And if you're the person who finds her first, one of your presents is worth more points than the other present. So they do try to give you a little bit of a reward for finding her first.
Erebus Jones makes a good point. If you can go from last to first in the last turn, what was the point of the previous 2 hours?
I know. That's what I was getting at. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you have fun along the way because you're playing mini games and blah, blah,
but
blah.
It's like, I mean, I don't
but
know.
if you're seriously competitive, Mario Party is not the game for you. Let's just be honest.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't want to be like board game snob boy here, but it's like this is none of what it's doing is like modern board game design. Like it's just the roll to move is a reason.
Shoots and ladders. Yeah.
Roll to move is basically a reason not to buy a game for most board game people.
No, you're right.
now.
I hear you. Yeah. Not Mario Party Land, though. So anyway, you go through the set of 3 mini games, and then whoever wins that 3 set of mini games gets the partner. And basically what happens is that partner is then attached to you for like 3 turns, I think it is. And if that partner is attached to you, you get double everything. If you land on a space that gives you coins, you get double coins. If you get to the star, you can get 2 stars instead of 1, provided you have enough coins to pay for the stars. But again, to Matt's point, it doesn't ultimately matter in the end. Like, again, if you're a really competitive person, Mario Party is not the game for you. You're going to feel like you get ripped off, and you should have won, and you didn't win. That's a big reason why I have not continued to be a Mario Party fan throughout the years. But again, the pro rules, I think, does help. But really, the big new feature of the whole game is that partner feature. And the other kind of weird thing about it is you have that partner for 3 turns where you double everything that you get. But if somebody comes by and passes you, they take that partner. And the partner goes with them, and all of a sudden, they're the ones that are getting double for everything that they do. So there's risk and reward with the partner stuff.
No loyalty.
Yeah, seriously. They're just like, okay, see ya. I've got a new date now. And then another new feature, other than the partner stuff, is the timeline along the bottom of the screen. If you look down at the bottom there, it shows you the order of the players and then when the next mini game is going to come. And that's a huge help in trying to figure out whether you want to take coins from a certain person or whether you want to use your pipe to who you want to switch places with. Because maybe, right now Bowser is the closest to the next star. Maybe you want to use the warp pipe to get next to him so that you maybe have a chance to get the star before him. That timeline along the bottom helps with strategy a lot. But again, in the end, does it really matter all that much when you can win on the last turn? I'm not so sure. As I said earlier, it is a 2 hours per game, and that's with just a 15-turn game. You can choose to play a 30-turn game. Just like half your day. I don't know what they're thinking. I think to make a good Mario Party that will sell very well in 2024, you need to figure out a way to play it in an hour or less. Even an hour, I think, is a big ask in 2024. With kids, their attention spans, man, they can't last for a whole round of Fortnite. I don't know why they're still continuing to do it this way, but it is a huge commitment. Now, one thing I will say is if you play locally with like your brother and sister, or if you're the parents, you're playing with your kids, if you play locally, you can save the game and come back. Online, that is not the case. You get in there, you have to play it through, and you can't quit either. The only way that you can quit, and the way people are quitting, is they go to the dashboard of the Switch and just close the game out. You can't hit start and actually go to a menu and choose to quit. They won't let you. But people just go and just completely, basically close the whole game to quit playing a game. As far as some of the other modes, there's one called Coupe-Athlon where you play through 9 really awful single-player mini-games against 19 other competitors. That's where the whole 20-player multiplayer thing is coming from. When you play actual Mario Party online with other people, you only play with 3 other players. But the 20 is that special mode Coupe-Athlon. I played it once, never went back to it again because honestly the mini games were terrible. There's another game called Bowser Kaboom Squad. It's a cooperative mode where you play with 7 other players and you're battling like the gigantic Bowser, which in this they're calling it like Bowser Duplicate or something because Bowser's technically
Imposter Bowser.
Right, Imposter Bowser because Bowser's in the game. You can play as Bowser. It's like just call him like Mecha Bowser. I don't know what they're doing with this crap. But you play that with 8 other people. It's also forgettable. And then there's a primary single-player mode that's called Party Planner Trek, where you go to a map, and each space is like a new challenge, and you just basically are trying to go through the whole map and complete it. That's like the primary single-player mode. Also forgettable, although, it's just an excuse to play the mini games. And
I don't understand half of the mini games I'm seeing. Like, like one of the most notable things about watching this footage is like a lot of the mini games. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to do in these.
Oh,
things.
really?
And like, which is not true of like watching like a WarioWare or a lot of other mini game things I've seen. Where I'm like that one thing where like, not that one. That one I don't really understand what you're what
the butt stomping.
The hammer thing.
Oh,
I didn't understand it. I don't understand the one where you're getting the food from the tray on the trays.
Oh, because that is literally one of the most awful mini games that has ever been invented. All you're doing is selecting a tray before somebody else. That's it.
Stupid.
Oh, there's like 5 or 6 mini games that have that same concept.
And then like the gather the jewels that Peach wants thing. I saw you pick one up and run over and then just put it next to the hole.
Well, I was trying to put it in the hole.
Right.
But the perspective is so weird and it's
just
so
like,
small.
why would it not know that's what you want to do when you're that close to it?
It should just automatically go in. Yeah, I hear you. And then some dude walks up,
and picks
grabs
it up
and picks it up and put
it
it in. Yeah. Again, the camera in this is a problem because they're trying to make sure that it works for 4 people playing at once. Some mini games are 2-on-2. Some mini games are everyone for himself. Some mini games are 1 against 3. And that's some of the stuff that's probably confusing you. Like the hammer one was me against the other 3 players. And I'm trying to hammer them as much as I can to get coins from them. And there wasn't really a winner in that other than whoever has the most coins at the end. So, but I will say, I think the mini games in this, for the most part, are really, really good. I had a lot of fun playing the mini games in this. In fact, like there's a mode where you can just go and play mini games, and I don't know, I may have spent as much time in that as I did playing the actual board game. Because I do think, even though there's only like 50 or 60 ones that you actually play in the Mario Party board game, I think that most of them are really, really good. Like the ones that you were seeing there was
that many of motion control? Like almost half of them?
No. The other half of them are for the other modes I just talked about. Like they're specific to those modes in a lot of cases. But I do feel like the mini games in this, I really enjoyed a lot of them. They make use of like all kinds of different concepts and ideas. And there are some that are cheap and you feel like you got ripped off and you should have won and you didn't win. Like I think that's part of the fun of Mario Party. Just the random nature of it. You never know what's going to happen and who's going to win, even down to the last turn. I think that appeals to some people. For competitive people like me, it does not. But bottom line is, I had a lot of fun playing this Mario Party. I really did. And I haven't got into a Mario Party this much probably since the N64. I had a lot of fun with it. The online play, it's a world of difference. Being able to just jump on and play online, either the main party mode or a lot of the other kind of side modes, it's a boon for a game like this. Like, they should have had this robust of online play in this series a long, long time ago. Now, one thing I will say that does suck a little bit is that, as I said, some of the mini games are for 2 versus 2 or 1 versus 3, and you would think, okay, I need to communicate with my teammates for those, and you do, and you can't. There's no voice chat in this. However, you may have noticed, and I'll just go back to the B-roll so you can see it. You may have noticed. Oh, I can't get back to it now. Crap. I'm sorry, I lost it. So anyway, bottom line is I had a lot of fun with this Mario Party. It's $60. It's a Switch exclusive. I think if you have kids, you'll get a lot more mileage out of this game. But the multiplayer online is a big change for me personally because I'm never going to have people to play with locally. It's just not going to happen. I don't have kids. My wife did actually play a couple mini games with me, and she did have fun with it, actually. Mm-hmm. But I'm never going to have kids. I'm never going to have a house full of people to play on the couch with me. That online mode is really essential to be able to play. So that's a big boon. I do like the throwback concepts that goes back to the original Mario Party games. If you have an affinity for those early days with the Mario Party. Now, there's none of the crazy things where you're going to grind your stick to a pulp or anything like that. I think the minigames are a lot more thoughtful, and they think a little bit about the hardware so you're not destroying your hardware. So there's not stuff like that in it where you're like physically tired from the minigames. It's more like thoughtful and being better with your thumbs. But I had a lot of fun with it. It is the best Mario Party I've played in a really long time, and I do think if you have kids or a house full of people or people who still come over to play games with you, I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of this game. Again, there's like 8 modes in there. I think if they had charged $70 for this, I probably wouldn't argue about it too much. Like, there's a lot of content in this game, and you will get a lot of playtime out of this if you like Mario Party. So I had fun with it. I would recommend it for $60 if you have people to play with locally. Playing online, it is a little frustrating because you get an hour into a game and like 2 of the 4 people drop, and it's just like the 2 first and second place people left, and you got to play out the game with just 2 people, which does go very quickly, I would add, once those people drop. but it is a little bit of a shame. If you have a lot of friends online on your friends list on Switch, who does? I don't know a lot of people who do. But if you do, then obviously the game is a little more palatable to that environment as well. So there you go. That is Super Mario Party Jamboree. Matt, do you have any questions about it?
Nope.
Let's see if chat has any questions before we move on. If you're playing online with a party as opposed to randoms, you can save and quit if I remember correctly. Oh, I don't know. I only play with randoms. I don't have enough people on my friends list, one, to play anything, and two, to play a game like this that most of them are not playing. So, Vince and I honestly don't know if that's true or not. I just know that I was not able to save the game playing with random match-made people online. Vincent says they're all split up. 10 are exclusive to the partner recruitment, 9 are 20-player mode, etc. Yeah. WarioWare Party could be neat, Drifter J says. And I would just say this reminded me a lot of times of WarioWare. If you saw, a lot of the mini games are really short. Like, they only take like 10 or 15 seconds. They're not micro games like WarioWare, but this definitely gives off the WarioWare vibes. It would be a little weird to have 4 people come into a mini game and have it last 3 seconds and then have to go through all the menus back out again. Like, that just wouldn't work with the design of this game, but you do get some WarioWare vibes playing this. It's not as avant-garde and like funny and off the wall like WarioWare is, but the concept is kind of the same. You're just playing very short games competitively. So there you go. The Super Mario Party Jamboree. Again, it's available for Switch, and it costs $60. All right. And with that, we're going to move on to our next review in today's show, and that is for Life is Strange Double Exposure, the next mainline Life is Strange game. I'm actually surprised, Matt, that you didn't jump in on the early access and play the first couple episodes of this.
I didn't realize it was out.
Yeah. You had to basically pre-order and give a little extra money to play it early. I did see online that a lot of people who did that are very pissed off because first couple episodes are slow burn. Like, you know how these games are.
Life is Strange, you don't say.
You know how these games are. The first episode is like introducing the characters and not much happens. You meet everybody. You understand the different social relationships between everybody. And then the second episode, they start introducing actual gameplay mechanics towards the end. And then the third episode, you're in it. Yeah. And then from then on.
Shane will remember that.
Exactly. So I played, just to let you know, I played the first 3 episodes out of 5. I played the first 2 because they only sent me a code for the first 2. And then they're like, hey, they followed up with me. They're like, you finished the first 2? I'm like, yep. They're like, here's the code for the rest. And I only got through 1 more episode before I had to come here and talk with you guys about it. So I have not finished the game. And that's important for a game like this to remember while I'm talking about it, is that I have not seen the story arc come all the way around. So I don't know what the big conclusion is going to be or anything like that. And again, for a game like this, it is very important. If you've never heard of Life is Strange before, it is a point-and-click adventure game with a little bit more action than you'd expect.
It's a choose-your-own-adventure puzzle game.
Yep, and you make decisions, and those matter. It affects things that happen on down the road and how characters interact with you and talk with you and all that kind of stuff. This in particular has a photography element because this is set 10 years after the last game. She has left Arcadia Bay. She's trying to leave all the things that happened in Arcadia Bay behind her. She has been hired. She has become a famous photographer, basically. And she has been hired by her best friend's mom, who is the dean of a college, to come to her college and be an artist in residence, basically. And she's a photographer. So she basically is a PA. She teaches photography at the college or whatever, and she's become a famous photographer. And so when you first start playing it, like this is the very first opening moments of the game. It's her with her best friend, and she has become known for going into abandoned buildings and photographing them and trying to find the lonely beauty of abandoned buildings. That's kind of like her niche or whatever that has made her famous. And so this very first scene, she's in this abandoned bowling alley with her best friend, Sophie, and you think that the whole game is going to be about photography, because that's what this whole thing is. You're taking pictures in the bowling alley, your friend is helping you set up shots, and blah, blah, blah. Once the game actually starts, though, the photography thing kind of goes away. It's an element of the game, but it's not like something that you're continually doing as the player.
I mean, that was pretty much the original, too.
Yeah. So don't think that, like, watching this B-roll, like, oh, it's a photography game with, like, some adventure stuff fit in. No, the photography is very much on the boundaries of the game. Just to set up the story a little bit more than what I just shared, So you've come to this new town in Vermont, in Lakeport, Vermont. You very quickly make friends with this girl, Safi. She is the daughter of the person who hired you and found you and brought you to Vermont to be a part of this college environment. She has basically become your best friend, and I know being a friend with Max Caulfield is probably the dumbest thing that you can do.
Yeah, don't do that.
But nobody here knows her or knows what happened, and that is one of the things that's hard for me to believe. Because you think, and like there are even scenes in this where she looks at newspaper clippings from what happened in Arcadia Bay, and I don't want to spoil what happened in the early Life is Strange games, but crazy crap happened. Like,
well, which is it? Like, do you pick the ending?
You do in this. So they ask you at a certain point, basically, like, which ending did you get? And I don't know how that shapes what happens afterwards.
One of those seems like it would be more known than the other.
That's true. Yeah. And it does decide, like, what happened to her ex-best friend.
Yeah.
like, you have to decide that. And I don't know how it shapes what happens in this. It's hard to tell once you're playing the game what it actually changes or whatever. But I would say that, like, she comes here and nobody knows her history in Arcadia Bay, which I found very hard to believe. But again, depending on the ending that you got, it's more believable than one ending is more believable than the other in that way. But anyway, she comes here. Nobody knows who she is, where she comes from. Everybody mentions that she's very cagey about her past and, like, it's okay to share things about yourself. She's very guarded, I guess is the best way I could put it. But somehow, through all that, she's managed to make really great friends and assimilated into the local culture. As I said, her new bestie is called Safi. Her mom hired her and brought her into town. She has another friend named Moses, and eventually we'll get to a scene where she, Moses, and Safi are stargazing. They're on a roof and they're looking through a telescope at the stars. There's like a meteor shower happening, whatever. In the middle of it all, Safi gets a phone call and she leaves the roof. And it leaves you with Moses in the telescope and some stuff happens. She's gone for a while and you're like, what's going on? So you leave to go and find her. You start walking through the snow. You find a bunch of her stuff that she's like dropped or whatever. So it keeps you on the trail. You walk up to this like little butte that overlooks the town and you find her there dead. She has been shot in the chest. And that's what kicks off the whole game. You're like, oh my God, my best friend is shot once again.
Yet again.
Really, being Max Caulfield's friend is the worst thing that you could ever do. And so you find her dead. But here's the thing. Like, Max, obviously, is very reluctant to use her powers. Now, she's sitting there. Her friend is dead. And she's like, oh, I could rewind time like I used to, and maybe I could save her. But for some reason, she says, like, my powers don't work like they used to, and I don't want to use them because it'll give me up to this new environment. She does not rewind time. What happens instead is that she discovers eventually that she has this other power that has manifest in her, and it's the ability to basically jump timelines. So she has the ability to stay in the present day where her best friend is dead, or she can jump to this alternate timeline, set at the same exact time, I should mind you. It's not in the past or anything. But in this other timeline, Safi's alive. And so she wants to go back into this other timeline, try to find out who wants to kill Safi to keep Safi from being killed in the present day timeline. And that's the setup for the entire game.
Wouldn't it be easier to rewind time until you saw the guy, whoever shot her?
She says that she either can't use her powers or her powers have weakened, and she basically says, I can't rewind time and save her.
Well,
the reasoning's a little flimsy, but whatever. And so it becomes this thing. So all the puzzles are built around this. So here she is trying to flirt with this bartender at the bar. And she doesn't know how to get her in. What can I use to break the ice or whatever? So she starts jumping timelines and looking at like signage and things that she likes so that she can then go back to the current timeline and chat her up with a topic that she knows will break the ice and she can get information out of her. And that's kind of how it works. So she can't switch timelines whenever she wants. You can tap R1 and it will scan the environment and it will show you what's happening in the other timeline for a brief second. But if you actually want to switch to that other timeline, there are these predetermined places that you go with like pixie dust floating in the air that you go to, and then you hit L1 and the world warps into the other timeline, which is kind of ridiculous. So conceivably, if you're at the right place at the right time, you could watch her walk to this place where you can't see the pixie dust, and then she just disappears.
Or she swaps places with her version of herself in the other timeline.
She doesn't. So there are comments throughout the entire game of like, oh, I've been gone for 3 days. my apartment is like all dusty and messy.
So why is there no Max in the other timeline?
I don't know. I have not got.
Did she die?
I have not got to the point in the plot where that is revealed yet.
At some point, you got to run into evil Max from the other timeline or something.
You would think, but usually how it works is like there's
because traditionally this game series does reveal that the other timeline something horrible has happened to someone you or the other person or whatever.
Yeah, but typically what this mechanic is used for and how it works is, hey, I need an object. I need a key to this door or to this cabinet, or I need to figure out a combination to a safe. So you go to the other timeline and you eavesdrop. You try to find the character you need the information from in a different setting where they're more open.
Who's to say in the other timeline the combination of the safe would be the same?
Right. Well, you need to get the combination. So you need to find a situation where the person who knows the combination would share it. So you need to be standing there where they can't see you. When you're in the other timeline, nobody can see you. You're invisible. So she can just eavesdrop. For example, there's one part where they're asking you to get the unlock code for a phone or whatever. And in the one world, you know who has the code, but you can't get it. They won't give it to you. So you switch to the other reality, and you eavesdrop on them where they mention what the code to the phone is, and you get the code. Then you go back to the other timeline and use the code on the phone.
So you're eavesdropping on the other timeline from the timeline you've jumped into?
No, you're in that timeline, but you're like a ghost, basically. People can't see you.
That's what I'm saying, though, is why would necessarily the combination of the save or the unlock code on a phone in the other timeline be the same as the one in her primary timeline?
Because they're the same. The timelines are at the same time with the same people.
Right, but that doesn't mean the numbers... because the different timelines, there are going to be differences in how things play. Are not necessarily going to end up with the same safe you bought.
No, you do. So they're the same. So at that moment, they're the same. Now, if you were to go into that alternate reality, then what happens from there could be different from what might have happened before. But in both timelines, the same thing happens up to that point when you switch, basically.
How is that possible?
How is that
possible if Max is not in that timeline?
It's like I said. Like, if you start thinking about this game, it falls to pieces.
Like, every time travel story has one thing that doesn't add up.
Right. Well, this has a bunch.
But you have to choose the thing that doesn't add up very carefully to be something that nobody really thinks about or matters to the plot.
Yep.
Back to the Future does that very well. This does not sound like it does very well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea for, like, a game mechanic.
Yeah.
But
well, then eventually she gets another power where she can swap objects, and this is from one reality to the other, and this is where people start picking up there's something going on. Like, she warps a huge telescope from, like, one reality to the next in front of other people. And the people are like, what the hell just happened? This thing just appeared in front of my face. And that's where they start getting the clue that, like, something's going on here. Like, there's some kind of a supernatural thing. They don't know that she's the one that's doing it. They're just like, something's going on here.
Yeah, you'd have a lot of leeway in that situation where you're like, people are not going to suspect you of teleporting telescopes from other realities, at least until you've done it a few times.
Yeah. So things start bleeding together. Also, like, you meet somebody who says to you, I just saw somebody who looks just like me. So things start bleeding in between the two realities, not just for Max,
like she
but
did
for
last
everybody.
time. Well, in the first game, like, she basically ruined reality by doing all the shit she was doing.
Well, here's the other thing, like, that this game doesn't address, and none of these games ever address, is like going back in time and changing the past ruins. It just f's up everything. These games just go la-di-dee, la-di-da. They act like nothing ever happened, and there's no consequences for any of this crap. This game does the same thing. She's basically going and changing reality, hoping for different outcomes in the future. But they don't explain how, like, those trickle-down effects just blow everything out. Like, nothing's the same after that. It's not like this game where everything's the same except for one thing. Like, everything could change after that.
The first game addresses that very directly.
Yeah. This one does not at all. Like, they just go la-di-dee, la-di-da. Who cares?
I mean, to be fair, the first game, it took them till the 4th episode to direct that.
Well, maybe they do it. They address it in this towards the end as well. So far, they've not.
Because it's implied that the reality storm that is going to destroy Arcadia Bay at the end of Life is Strange 1 is because she's been messing with time so much.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But here she is 10 years later. acting like none of that crap ever happened. She never talks about
you said she's reluctant.
Right.
To
I mean,
do it.
even like her internal dialogue, like she never says, "Man, I really screwed things up in Arcadia Bay. I don't want to do that here." Like, there's none of that. Like, there's one scene where like she has all her knickknacks from Arcadia Bay. You'll see it in the B-roll here in a bit, and she like puts it under the table, and there's a big sign on it that says Arcadia Bay Memories. It's so fucking corny.
Which is a very funny thing to put if the Arcadia Bay no longer exists.
Yeah.
Depending on your ending.
Yeah. And then there's a detective who's trying to solve the case of her friend's murder, and he starts meddling in the whole thing. And you. Here's the other thing that I hate about these games.
Wow, that
in
was
general.
a hell of a push.
Yeah.
You fell way off that bench.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the things that I hate about these games in general, is that like there's no logic. So this detective is starting to poke around, and he comes to you, and he's like, "Hey, like, are you willing to be honest with me? I'm trying to solve the murder of your best friend. Can you be honest with me about these other people who are involved?" And like, you have the choice of saying no or yes. To me, it was like, I'll say yes, but then I'm just not going to tell you the stuff I don't want to tell you. So I said, yes, I'll work with you. Well, that was a huge mistake, because my buddy Moses finds out that you told the cop that you're going to work with him, and the cop is kind of investigating him. And they even give you the option of, when you talk to Moses, of saying, no, I'm really not going to work with him. He still hates you. Even though you say, like, I just said that to just get him off of my back, he's still like, oh, I can't believe that you did that. And it screws up everything. Like, you get all the, like, icons popping up on the screen saying, oh, they're going to remember that. This will cause consequences. I'm like, what do you mean, dude? Like, these games, there's not enough nuance to them as far as like the conversations are concerned. Like all these other games like this, they make you make these binary decisions that don't give the shades of gray that reality would actually give to this decision making. So Moses hates you because you lied to the cop and told the cop that you were going to help him, even though you're not really going to help him. And you tell Moses that, and he's like, oh, I don't care. You still betrayed me. It's like, no, dude, I didn't. Like, I'm trying to solve my friend's murder and make sure that they aren't investigating you at the same time. Like, there's stuff like that all the way through what I have played of this game, where like there's no good way for you to be a human in the game, like a real human. And that's a big problem for me, personally. The voice acting in this is great, like really, really good. Like some of the best, I think, probably of this year. The writing is pretty good, but it does get a little overly wordy. I don't know if part of that is that they're trying to make sure that people who didn't play the original games keep getting caught up on little tidbits from the earlier games so they understand a little more context around what's happening. But it's a little overwritten, but the voice actors do a great job. I'm sure you've already noticed on the B-roll that there's like a LOD issue. Mm-hmm. Like you show a close-up object and like it looks all blurry and then it pops into focus. That's just the engine. It does it all the time. It does it indoors. It does it outdoors. It does it on character models. It does it on inanimate objects. It does it on textures. There you go. There's Arcadia. Putting away the Arcadia Bay memories just to be forgotten forever. And just going to put it here so everyone who comes to visit me can read it. So anyway, the writing's a little over the top. But one thing I'll say that I love about this, Matt, is every scene is produced. There's no talking head scenes. There's no scenes where somebody just stands there and their mouth moves. Every scene in this game is fully acted, fully motion captured. Characters interact with each other. The facial animation looks great. Like, they know that the crux of the game is the conversations, is the interaction with other people in the game, and they make sure that they handle that part really well. There's so many games that get lazy. And let's not forget, this still is an indie game. It is published by Square Enix, so technically it's not. But it is made by a small studio with a meager budget. But every cutscene in this, fully acted. There's no, like, little image of their head with a bunch of text scrolling like you get in a lot of other indie games. They go the extra mile in the presentation on this as far as the storytelling is concerned, and it does pay off. And again, like most of the puzzles in this, it's a lot like the Medium. That's the other thing I would say, is that, like, there's only so much you can do with, like, the dual reality thing. It's like you got the object here that you need over here. Oh, I need to move this thing here so that when I go back to the other reality, it's there. Like, there's puzzles in this where, like, you're in a room and you're kind of trapped in a corner by, like, filing cabinets or whatever, and then you need to go and switch realities, and the filing cabinets are in a different shape so you can get out of the corner of the room. It's all crap like that. Like, there's another scene where you're trying to get a camera that has been hidden in this, like, grate. In the one reality, there's a bunch of stuff pushed up against the grate. You can't get to it. So you switch realities. You go, you push the stuff out of the way in the new reality because it's on a cart, and you can get the object out of the grate. It's all stuff like that. That's pretty much what the bulk of the game is built on. And it does, I feel like it starts to wear out its welcome a little bit. As I said...
I think most of these games do that.
That's what I was saying. They're all like this.
Not just Life is Strange, just sort of this general genre.
Yeah, they all are that way. What else is there to say? There is some mundane stuff in this game, too, like you would expect from, like, Quantic Dream games. There's, like, scenes where you're, like, opening up doors, and it's, like, way more annoying than it should be. There's, like, little scenes like that in the game. So there's a little bit of mundane stuff in there. Like, there's one scene where you have to clean your apartment before somebody comes over, and it does feel like some of that stuff is just put in the game so that it's longer. That it's not, it's like, oh... Because I think I've played the first 3 of the 5 episodes of this, and I've spent 4 hours maybe playing it so far. You're probably gonna be able to finish it in 5 or 6 hours would be my guess. So it does feel like there's a little bit of padding in the game, which is a shame. I feel like you don't really need it in games like this at all. And you know, the having to go to a specific spot to change to the other reality, like there's no basis for that in the story or the canon from the series. Like it's just silly. It's like, why is it this spot that I walk to in the corner of the room where I can transform to the other reality? Like
reality is thin in some places.
Apparently, there's a weakness in the wall or whatever. There's also some.
I can't find anything about the budget for this game.
Oh, really? There's also some stealth in the game. Like there's some instances where you need to like distract people with like noises and then sneak around behind them. There's some of the puzzles. There's a cool puzzle where you have like this projector that projects constellations onto the wall, and you have to line up the projector with the mural on the wall, which points you to something else. There's a whole social media angle to the game, so when you do take a photo, you can immediately select to upload it. And like a lot of the important information that you're getting about your quests and things like that are in your cell phone in this social media app. And it gets really annoying having to constantly keep going back to the social media app to check stuff. Like, I feel like it's just something they're like, well, it's 10 years later and everybody has cell phones now. So what would she do with a cell phone? And so we got to put it in there. Unneeded. Like, you could just show her that she has a cell phone and like, okay, I get it. That's present day. They didn't need to try to work some mechanic into it. So, there's like a mechanic that you can use. So if somebody's talking to you and you're out of earshot, there's like this little like quick time mini game you play with R1, and you can communicate them with people who aren't in your direct vicinity. I don't remember that being in the other games. Do you? It feels like a new mechanic.
I don't know, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think it was in the first one. It might have been in 2 or True Colors.
I don't remember
I'm not
perfectly.
Sure. I didn't get too far in True Colors.
Yeah, I finished that one. And then there are moments where you come back, you've been out sleuthing for a while, you come back to your apartment and you just put all the clues out on a table and you try to start piecing the things together, trying to figure out what's going on. Ultimately, the goal of the game is to figure out who killed Safi. Who's going to kill Safi? Because Safi was working on a book. Safi's your best friend if you forgot her name. And she's the one that's killed. She was working on a book, and one of your mutual friends ended up killing the book for some reason. So a big part of the mystery is like, 1, why was Safi's book killed? 2, was the person that killed the book the one that killed her? And 3, why would a book that she is working on facilitate her dying? So those are kind of the mysteries that you're trying to solve throughout the course of the game. But the biggest mystery really is like, what happened to Safi? And can I do something in this other reality that will keep her alive in the real reality so that I can continue on with life of her being my friend? And then there's romance and stuff all mixed in there as well. And I haven't brought a relationship to fruition yet. But one thing I will say that I found interesting, Matt, was that Max obviously is a lesbian. Mm-hmm. She's gay. And at the beginning of the game, like you first start, you saw in the B-roll of her trying to pick up the bartender at the bar. But later on, like you can try to turn her not gay. Like you make decisions in a conversation that she has with a guy where they start flirting with each other. Mm-hmm. And like they are kind of hitting it off. And like I don't know if that pays off later on. And maybe she's bi, I don't know. But I was surprised by that it gives you the opportunity to try to have a heterosexual relationship with her.
I mean, she might be, she's certainly never shown any interest in men before.
Right, yeah.
But that doesn't mean there isn't.
But in this scene, she does. And maybe it could be that she's manipulating him.
Could be.
I don't know.
I mean, also, if you're Max Caulfield, you'd probably take it where you can get it.
Yeah, at this point in your life. So anyway, I mean, that's it. I played the first 3 episodes out of 5.
She seems like a hard person to get to know.
Yes, and a person you probably don't want to know either.
People do get shot around her.
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah,
Other stuff happens too. So again, that's Life is Strange Double Exposure. It is 5 episodes. I played the first 3, so I have 2 more to get through, and I do have them loaded up on my console, and I probably will keep playing because I am kind of sucked into this. The game is, I wrote it down here, its cost $50. Little steep for 5-6 hours of entertainment.
Yeah, probably, but it's about the same you paid for the original.
I think those were 40, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but with inflation.
Right, yeah. So it is $50, and, it is one of those games that maybe there's incentive to replay it, go back and make different decisions and see what happens. So
yeah, there's usually a second path through, or go back and play the optimal quote-unquote path. Or whatever.
So there's a little bit of incentive to play it again. I don't know how much the story will change, but again, it asks you big questions, like what happened in the last game? Like, what was the ending you got, basically? But it lets you choose. Like, even if it didn't read my saves or anything, although I think it maybe is supposed to.
No, I don't think so.
No, it didn't. And so
That's all too scattered. Even Dragon Age isn't going to do that.
Yeah. So instead, it just asks you questions. And it lets you, even if you didn't get that ending, you can choose that ending if you want to see how it plays out that way. So $50 is a little steep, I think, for something like this. Although we don't get experiences like this all that often anymore. They were a thing for a really long time. They're kind of few and far between.
Well, yeah,
now.
in the wake of Walking Dead winning Game of the Year.
Yeah, there was like a rush of these games. But now we get them like once every 2 years, it feels like.
Well, because they're just like everything. Nobody wanted to play those games all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to play the good ones.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a good one. I will say that. Like, I am sucked into the game. I will go home and I will finish this. I'll spend the extra couple hours to get to the end of it. And if something blows my mind, believe me, I'll be back next week to talk about it. Also, if there's anything that I complained about today that was satisfied later on in the game where it was no longer a complaint, I will also bring that up here on the show. But having played the first 3 episodes, that's my takeaway for Life is Strange Double Exposure. It's available for everything. It's available for every platform, and again, it is $50. If you like these games, it's worth it. It's a good one. It's not a bad one. I like it better than True Colors, for example, which you just brought up. And a lot of it could be the familiarity, because True Colors were like a lot of new characters and things like that. I know these characters, or at least the main character, a lot better in this. So I definitely had a better familiarity with Max than I did with the characters in True Colors. But I think in general, it's just a better game, period. So there you go.
Deck 9 seems to be getting their legs on these. So.
Yep. Let's check out chat and see if you guys have any questions for me. Eat Demon says, sounds a lot like the first, a teenage supernatural drama. Except they're not teenagers anymore. They're adults now. But I will say this, like, they act like teenagers. Like, the decisions that they make, the stuff that they're talking about.
Well, yeah, because this would be, does this take place now?
It's 11 years after Arcadia Bay.
Okay, so she's 29.
Yeah, she's in her 20s, basically.
She's 18 in the first one.
Right,
so.
yeah. So, she shouldn't be acting like a teenager in this.
Have you met any 20-year-olds, 20-somethings?
It's been a minute since I've hung out with them. Yeah.
It's not going great.
Okay. But anyway, there you go. That is Life is Strange Double Exposure. And with that, it's time for a word from our sponsor, the Lands of Hyberian.
Welcome to the Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements, but his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this!
I just want to take a second to say thank you to the people who have participated in the Lands of Hyberian project, is what I like to call it. I've been going back and forth with Stealthy, the guy who originally initiated the project, and he is over the moon with how you guys have helped him. It's really awesome. Like, don't stop. The game still has a lot of work to go. So go to Steam, search for the Lands of Hyberian, Hyberian, and get in there and start working on this game with Stealthy, because it really warms my heart to see you guys like jumping in and helping him to finish this game. It is amazing. And if this is something you've always been interested in doing, you might want to dabble in game development, there is no better opportunity than this. This is it. This is your shot to figure out if you want to make video games. I'm just telling you, get in there, go to the Lands of Hyberian on Steam, buy it for $1, jump in, start helping him with the game. I cannot wait till the game's done and we can come on GameFace and be like, that game is finished. Y'all just finished your first ever video game. Again, go to Steam, search for the Lands of Hyberian, buy it for $1, and get involved. And with that, it's time for our next review. This one's going to be short because we are starting to run out of time a little bit here. I played a game called A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. Matt, what do you think of the Quiet Place movies?
They're all right.
Yeah, I liked the first one, but I haven't watched any of them since. It feels like it's like they've been kind of rolling them out pretty frequently.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah. And when did the first one come out?
2017, I think.
That's quite a cadence. It's 3 movies in
the second
6 years.
The second one was supposed to come out in March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And
the pandemic and everything.
The Quiet Place 2 was the movie on the big skyscraper on Wilshire driving towards downtown. That was the one stuck. That was the Quiet Place 2 was stuck on that for like a year during the pandemic. So that took a while.
Yeah.
And then Day 1 just came out this year.
Okay. I heard Day 1 was pretty good.
Day 1 is supposedly pretty good.
I heard that.
I haven't seen it.
Yep. Well, this is based on the movie franchise. It is a shocker, a stealth game. If you're not familiar with the movie franchise, it's basically about an alien invasion, and the alien creatures are blind, but they can hear. And so the whole thing is you have to be as quiet as possible, because literally the slightest rustle or movement, you're dead.
And the entire world has to figure out a way to put noise-canceling headphones on all of them.
On the monsters. I get that.
Because they're all like those kids who like scream if there's any noise in the room.
Yeah.
Except if the kids murdered you.
Yeah. Well, this is a first-person walking simulator, and it is a walking simulator. It follows a college student named Alex Taylor. It takes place 100 days after the aliens showed up. And this actually has dual plot lines. It's not like dual realities, but it does jump back and forth from the past to the present. And it basically, the plot explores her relationship with her boyfriend's family, because what's happened is they are holed up in a hospital with a bunch of other human survivors, and the hospital is run by your boyfriend's mom, who is just this nightmare ogre that everybody hates and no one wants to work with, and she rules the hospital with an iron fist. But you're obviously in love with this boy. You play as a girl. You're in love with this boy, and you're making sacrifices to stay with him and dealing with the family. And that's a big, big part of it. The game starts, you're sitting with your boyfriend next to a stream. I mean, we're watching it right now. He wanders off, and you got to look for him. He wanders way off. And this is where, like, the tutorial happens. And when I said this game is a walking simulator, I meant it. So when I was a young lad, my dad took me out and taught me how to hunt. And if any of you guys have ever had this happen with one of your parents, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, they teach you how to walk in the woods, how to look for twigs, how to look for leaves that will be loud, how to look for rocks that may dislodge. You literally, my dad would say, you look at that spot that you're going to step the entire time until your foot lands in that step, and then you look where you're going to step next. And he taught me how to walk silently through the woods. That's what this game is. You have to look down at the ground, because right there is a tin can that will make all kinds of noise. And this game is evil in that it places objects that you can walk into in shadows, in places where you can't see it. And literally, if you make one mistake, you die. You kick one can, you die. You step on one piece of broken glass, you die. You step on a pile of rocks that makes a rumbling noise, you die. that's it. It's over immediately. Now, I'll say this. There are checkpoints, very generous checkpoints in this game. If there weren't, this game would be borderline unplayable, in my opinion. But literally, if you die, like, they move you like 10 feet back, basically, to try again, which is really, really good. But basically what happens is you go to the hospital. Something happens with you and the boyfriend. You go back to the hospital. You get there, and there's like a huge upheaval going on. Your dad is living there with you. He's like, you got to go. You need to get out of here. So your goal becomes to get out of the hospital. And once you get out of the hospital, follow the railroad tracks to a camp. Once you get to the camp, they will give you the directions to this encampment that's offshore where all the humans are staying and living and trying to survive. And that's basically the goal of the game. Now, along the way, apparently you're a genius because you can turn like circuit boards and a toothbrush into like this audio sensor that you use throughout the entire game. You can see right there. You also get like a little flashlight, and you have to get batteries for that, or you can like, it goes on and off. You can hit R or L2 to recharge it, or you can just replace the batteries. But what I found is that I just use the flashlight in this sparingly, only when I absolutely need it, and I turn it right off again. You also, as I said, you get this sound sensor that measures the audio, the sound that you're making, and also measures the ambient noise, because the ambient noise in this game is important. If it's raining outside, or say you're in a room with like a boiler, any place where there's noise, you can move a lot more quickly without fear of getting killed by the monsters. And towards the end of the game, they take that away. They give the monsters the ability to hear over the ambient noise in like the last like hour and a half of the game. They also give you the ability, like, so you play the first like 2 hours of this game, you can't throw objects to distract the monsters. And then all of a sudden they're like, now you can. Start throwing cans. Like, you're just like, what are you talking about? I've been able to throw a can this entire time. They just don't give you the ability. And I feel like what happened with this game is they started playing it and they realized that after 2 hours, it just becomes dreadful to play. And they're like, we need to mix it up, because it also becomes very easy. Once you kind of start to understand the nuances of it and like how to look down, and basically what you end up doing in this game is just crouch walking through the whole damn game. That's what I did, because you can't walk fast. If you walk too fast, your steps get too loud. And there's like an indicator on the screen that shows your steps, and if they get too loud, like you gotta slow down. Basically, you just crouch walk through the whole damn thing and look down at the ground to make sure you don't step on something that's gonna make a bunch of noise. And that is pretty much the way I played through this entire game. Now, here's the twist to the not to the combat, but to the gameplay in general, is that Alex is an asthmatic pregnant woman. She has asthma, and she's also pregnant. Her asthma acts up. So if she gets stressed out, her asthma acts up. Or if she expends a lot of energy, her asthma acts up. And you have to use an inhaler. Just know this, Matt. In the future, there will be inhalers everywhere. Everywhere. Every cabinet you open up, there will be an inhaler. Every time you look at the ground, there will be an inhaler on the ground. Any door you open up, there will be an inhaler sitting on the cabinet inside that room.
Well, when you get killed by an alien, you drop your inhaler. So.
And not only that, Matt, every one of those inhalers will have one shot left in it.
Yeah. And exactly what you need.
Exactly. So you use the inhaler to get over your asthma attacks, and it is terrifying. Like, if the monster is right next to you and you're starting to have an asthma attack, you freak out. Well, you don't, because you don't get scared by stuff like this, but I did. Like, because you can hear the heart meter, and you can hear the
yeah,
bosses.
My reaction would probably be, oh, come on.
Except you can't, because if the mic's on, it'll alert the monster. Don't forget.
Oh, bring it on, you little shit.
I actually turned my mic off to play this. I tried it out, and it does work. Like, you just instantly get killed. If there's any sound in the room, you just get killed. So I was like, okay, it works. Turn it off. Now I'm going to play the game without it on. And so you have to use the inhaler to overcome your asthma, and you have to find pills to overcome your nausea from your pregnancy. And the pills you come across, you automatically just take them. Like, you don't actually, like, hold them in inventory or anything. But the inhaler, you do. You hold it, and then you use it.
Sounds like an even more annoying version of malaria from Far Cry 2.
It is a little bit, yeah. It does get annoying after a while, to be perfectly honest with you. The other thing, too, I would say, is after the early stages of the game, there's hardly any human interaction. And therefore, there's, like, no story. Like, you're just basically trying to find the offshore safe spot. And then there's, like, documentation laying around, like you're going to see right here. So if you read this stuff, you get a semblance of the story. If you don't, there's nothing going on. It's just you trying to find your way to the safe space. And that's pretty much it. So the plot at the beginning, I thought was interesting. I thought the characters were interesting. The setup was interesting. But then it just all goes away, and it's just you with your thoughts, basically. And I thought that the story started to lose its steam, and the game in general then started to lose its steam as well. The game's like 5 hours long, and it costs $30, which I think is probably fair. I think that's probably about the right price for it. And yeah, there's like other gameplay stuff that you do other than sneaking around. Like you'll find planks that you need to put over gaps. There's sound traps that are located around the world that I think are supposed to catch the monsters, but they end up catching you and getting you killed. So you have to deactivate those. You get sand, and you put sand down on the ground to mask your footsteps. That's straight out of the movies. I don't remember that from the films. And that's a big mechanic towards the end of the game. It gets really annoying. You have to keep laying the sound down before you walk everywhere, or the monster will find you. And as I said, later on in the game, suddenly the creatures learn echolocation, so the ambient sound doesn't cover your footsteps anymore. So the last hour of the game is really a frickin' slog, because you can't even use ambient sound to cover up the sounds that you're making. You have to just go really, really slow. The audio in this is incredible. It is easily the best part of this. So it's very quiet, as you would expect, a game called that has quiet in its title. And then thunder cracks. And literally, Matt, it scared the living crap out of me. I was playing with headphones on, and the game is so silent, and you're trying to listen for the monster at all times. Like, eventually you get the phonometer, which measures the sound, and so it's like almost like a Geiger counter. It's like a clicking sound, like click, 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 that tells you how close the monster is to you. And so the audio for that is awesome. It builds the tension, and then when your asthma starts acting up, your heart beats, and that's pounding.
Bro, I don't think you're thinking this through too well here.
What?
Him celebrating the pregnancy.
The pregnancy.
It's like having something that cries at any given moment is a bad thing in this world.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Like, even in that safe house, if you notice walking down the stairs, they're like, don't be loud.
Yeah.
Like, even down here, they can hear you, and they'll come down and kill you. So you're right. Having a baby is about the worst thing that you could possibly do. But the audio design in this is incredible. Like, the spatial sound, as far as the location of sounds, is awesome. They bump up the sound effects of the creatures. So every footstep they make makes like a bass hit thud, 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 thud. And it's completely unrealistic and kind of cheap, but it works. It definitely builds the tension. Like, as those thuds start getting louder and louder, and that Geiger counter starts clicking faster and faster, like, it definitely builds a crescendo that gets you excited about it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it has the whole microphone thing, where you have the microphone turned on your controller, and it hears you. The creature can hear you and will come and kill you. I can tell you that works, and that's all you need to know. It is not a fun mechanic to use, because anybody can just walk into the room while you're playing and be like, hey, Shane, and then you're dead. Unless you know you can lock yourself away in a bedroom somewhere to play, I would not use that feature at all. I think it's just basically another way for an insta-kill.
Are they just around somewhere?
The monsters are everywhere. Yeah, there's hundreds and thousands of them. It's not like there's one. Like, they're everywhere. So any sound you make, they're going to be on you, like, quick. And again, that does make tension throughout the entire game, but after a while, it just wears you out. You're just like, dude, I'm tired of crouch walking through this entire damn game. And a lot like Life is Strange, the more you think about this game, the worse it gets. Like, you start thinking about, like, the practicality of it, like how you would really survive in this world. The movie has huge plot holes too, don't get me wrong. Like, there's just, I don't think there's any way to do this in a way where there aren't going to be plot holes. It would be really, really hard, and there are tons in this game, just like there are a lot in the films. It does have a little bit of a taste of Alien Isolation, which, if you're a fan of that game, you probably will like this, because the other thing too I would say is this game's actually more lenient than Alien Isolation, as far as like being able to stop and be quiet once you're detected and not just immediately be killed like you are in Alien. It's a little more, gives you a little bit more leeway in this. And so if Alien was a little bit too much for you, you might find a happy medium here with this game. But again, it's $30. It's 5 hours long. I think you'll probably enjoy it a lot more if you like the films, but I can't say I've ever run into a fan of The Quiet Place. It's not a film that's generally brought up when I'm talking to people about horror movies, at least. So, I don't know. It's hard for me to recommend this to too many people. I think the price is right for what you're getting, but it's a very rigid stealth game. And they don't make a lot of these anymore, and I think that's for a reason, because a lot of people just don't like them. Obviously, there's been a lot of bad sort of sentiment around stealth games in the industry over the last few months here. A lot of it kicked off with Star Wars Outlaws and its stealth segments. This is all the stuff that people hated from Star Wars Outlaws. It's all stealth missions with insta-death. So if you didn't like it in Star Wars Outlaws, you're probably not going to like it in this either. Visually, it's okay. It's not top shelf. The monster is animated a little bit weird. I'm actually going to jump forward in the B-roll here very quickly so you can maybe see the monster, if I can find the part of it. I think this is it. But the monster is animated weird. Like, I just don't think the way they created the monsters, it's realistic. Yeah, here it is. For them to move the way that they move. But I'll say this.
I mean, that's pretty much what they look like.
Yeah. This scene did scare the living tar out of me, man. Because you can see up in the top left there, you can see my heartbeat is going crazy. The Geiger counter's going berserk. And I can't get out. And I have to stand here and watch this monster walk right next to me, praying that he doesn't know that I'm there, and he eventually walks away, which he does. But this scene definitely scared me. So if like he screams, you're like, oh, he knows where I am. Oh, and then he turns and walks away, and I was like, shoo. So there are definitely moments like this. Later on in the game, it kind of gets ridiculous where you're out in like broad daylight. You can see the enemy clear as day, and the developers have just made the pathway so narrow that you have to walk past them, and you just basically have to get lucky. You got to walk beside him. He came back. Yes.
Right here. Well, and the thing with these movies that always I thought was how inconsistent the sound thing is.
Right.
Because you make a time do you know how loud it is outside?
I know.
Did they just kill all the birds, I guess, already?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said,
what are they gonna eat? What are they?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if they. I
don't think they even eat the people that they kill.
No, it doesn't seem like. I don't know if they've gone. Are they a bioweapon? Were they dropped on the Earth by another
aliens.
alien? Yeah, but were they dropped on the Earth by another alien race to clear out the planet, or what? What?
I don't know.
I don't know if they've ever gone into that, like what they are exactly, or why. Because it doesn't seem like something that would coexist in a biome very well.
Yeah. But anyway, and then you can see there's some stuff like this. And everything you do, you have to do quietly. So you have to unscrew the screws really slowly. When you open this grate, watch how slowly I open it. So it just rests.
Arkham City could never.
Yeah. And then like every drawer you open, you have to open it slowly. Like these locks here, you have to do it slowly so they don't make too much noise. Everything you do in this game, you're worried about how much noise you're making because, truth be told, you make very much of it and you are dead. But again, it is nice that there are checkpoints that don't set you back too far because otherwise people would play this game for like an hour and they would never go back to it. So there you go. That's A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead. It's available for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. It is $30, which I think the price is right. The game's just not that good, and I just found myself more aggravated than anything playing it. I enjoyed the first couple hours of it, and then there was just nothing else. And so then they put in the now the monsters can hear over the ambient noise. Oh, now now you can throw cans. It just got kind of ridiculous at the end. So, and then the other thing I would say, I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but I pretty much guessed the ending of this, and I think most people of moderate intelligence will as well. So there was no big reveal at the end where I was caught off guard. Everything, it happened exactly how I thought it was going to happen ultimately. So there you go. That is A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead.
Wouldn't everybody just get on boats?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wouldn't that be you basically create
Well, the safe house is out in the water offshore.
You'd build offshore stuff where they can't get you there.
I mean, most of them that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to get to the safe space off of the shore to get away from the monsters, but it's hard to get there.
You still have to, I guess you'd run out of fish eventually.
Yeah. Like I said, you start thinking about this stuff too much, it all falls apart. And there you go. That's A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead. And now it's time for a word from our sponsor, New York Sneaker Society. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh.
For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off.
That's right, Sifters. Go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted because that URL gives you 15% off, not 10% off. Make sure that you use that. If you buy one of the bigger packages to really make over some of your shoes, you'll get a huge discount at that 15%. Even the smaller stuff, couple bucks, nothing to sneeze at. Maybe it covers your shipping or whatever. Again, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted. Make sure you use that URL. And one thing we love to do for this sponsorship is talk about one of the smaller games from the week. And this week, once again, it was clear, despite the fact that there were so many smaller games in the Xbox Showcase, there's one game that you guys really latched onto this week, and it's a game called Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Matt, yet another Souls-like.
Yep.
It really feels like our audience can't get enough of it.
I honestly forgot this was not the same thing as Mist whatever.
The Mist Warriors or whatever the hell it was called. Mist Fall Hunter.
Yeah.
That's such a catchy name. I can't believe we didn't remember it. This is a Souls-like set in an alt-history rural Chinese village that's been overrun by the plague. And it's also set in the final days of the Ming Dynasty. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2025. And again, this is just one of those games that I'm just like, it looks like all the others. I'm not sure why you guys resonated with this week, but this is more popular than any of the stuff in the Xbox Showcase.
Well, there's the one lady she fights with the huge boobs.
Oh,
that's probably it.
Well, there you go. It wasn't in the thumbnail, though. That's usually what does it. But anyway, this is called Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. And again, it is coming in 2025 to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. It is your choice for the New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week. And we got one more game. I told you 4 reviews in today's show. We have one more game to discuss. This one's going to be really quick because there's not that much to talk about, and we actually covered this game in the show like a year and a half or 2 years ago. It is Starship Troopers Extermination. It is a massively cooperative Starship Troopers first-person shooter. I covered this when
everyone working on this watched Helldivers 2 come out and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. But you're stealing our glory. But this is
no, this was never going to be that.
Yeah. I mean, although this is very similar to Helldivers 2. I mean, it's
obviously.
It's a cooperative shooter where, like, you go out, you fight, and then you come back and defend the base, and then you get extracted out. Mm-hmm. So the concepts are almost identical.
Yeah. To be fair, Helldivers 1 did it first.
Right. That's a good point.
Which was taken from the Starship Troopers movie in
the
first place. Like,
it's a
giant
full
feedback loop.
It really is a big feedback loop.
Right down to the propaganda satire.
Yeah. Now, what makes this one different, though, is that you're building the base. And the base building mechanics in this are insane. They are, I guess I should say, user-friendly. Because it can be very complicated and annoying to do stuff like this. But it can't be in this game because basically what happens is, depending on the mode that you're playing, the aliens come in waves. So they come, they attack, they tear down half of your base, then they go away. And then you have this little, in some cases, in some of the modes, like a minute to rebuild your base before the next wave comes. And so it's
almost the original concept of Fortnite.
A little bit, yeah. And so building the base has to be fast. Otherwise, it wouldn't work with the construct of the game.
I think you can get away with some pretty intricate construction stuff in games like this thanks to Fortnite.
Maybe, yeah.
I think people are used to that idea.
I mean, I'll just say this.
I'm not.
I was the worst builder in this game. Like, it was amazing watching some of the players rebuild the base in this. Like, literally in 10 seconds, rebuild a whole side of the base. So there are people who love this game and have been playing it for a really long time. And you'll start seeing in the B-roll here when you actually start seeing the gameplay that each match you have like dozens of people on your side. I mean, the base is gigantic. There's people at every corner of the base, at every entrance of the base. And basically you just take on waves and waves of enemies from Starship Troopers. Now, there is a single-player mode, and it's just a joke. It's you and bots basically going through a map, wiping out the insects. Very, as I talked about earlier with Life is Strange, this game is the cheap indie storytelling. It has the talking heads, the little images with the text scrolling or whatever. Single player in this, I don't even know why they bothered. Like, why? Just spend more time working on another map for the multiplayer. I don't know why they put it in this, but there is one in there in case some of you guys are worried about it. But it really is about the multiplayer. And Matt, to your point about them watching Helldivers 2, from when I played it in early access, they have added the global goal, which was not.
And a lot more amber.
Yeah. And it was not
I can't help but notice.
in the early access version of the game.
This visual aesthetic is not Starship Troopers. This is Helldivers.
It is. They completely ripped it off. Yeah. And this is all late game changes. This is not what the game was like when I played it like a year and a half ago or whatever. But it's fun. I guess that's what the most important part is, that this is fun. So, like, there's the team stuff in this is pretty awesome. So there's a bunch of different modes, and like some of the modes you go out in the world and you do stuff. You pick up these canisters and you deliver them and blah blah blah, and you're doing all that stuff, and then eventually they'll say, okay, now it's time for extraction. You have to go back and extract, and you have to fight through hundreds and hundreds of enemies sometimes just to get to the extraction zone. And then you get there and you fight. You're kind of half in and half out of the ship as you're fighting. As they will come into the ship and try to kill you. And so that stuff kind of works. But then there's some modes where it literally is just a horde mode. It's just the base, you and your teammates, and wave after wave of enemies. And I was in one of those matches, and I was operating a turret at the top of the base, just mowing down enemies as they rolled in. And my turret ran out of ammo. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And I go to disengage from the turret, and I spin around, and here there is a guy standing next to me who is feeding the turret ammo while I shoot it. He's like, you know what? You're on the turret. I'm not going to be a douche and like try to be the turret operator. I'm going to feed the turret that you're shooting. And so I just jumped back on the turret, and I just sat there and shot without having to reload for the next like 10 minutes. Like, that stuff happened all the time. Like, the community in this game is really freaking awesome. I was blown away. Anytime I died, within like 2 seconds, there was someone there to revive me. And there's some times where you die in this, and there are literally hundreds of bugs on top of you. And people will fight through those bugs to get to you to revive you. I think I talked about this when I talked about it the first time, that the community in this game was just incredible. Like, everybody trying to help me, like, they're all on the mics, like, they taught me how to, like, repair quickly, because once you've built it, you don't have to build it again, you repair it. And so I was trying to, like, rebuild stuff. They're like, no, just use your repair tool, and everything's still there, you just can't see it. Just start, and sure enough, I started squeezing the repair tool, and things just started, like, repairing and appearing in front of my eyes. Like, the community in this game is incredible. And do I like this more than Helldivers 2? You may remember I wasn't a huge fan of Helldivers 2. And Helldivers is a third-person shooter. This is a first-person. I do generally enjoy first-person shooting more. But I would just say this, like, I played this on PS5. I probably should have got a PC code from the publisher, because I don't know if you saw in the B-roll, but the frame rate in this game at points on the PS5 just buckles. And that's
Gotta get the Pro.
Yes, seriously. And that's a problem in this game.
Yeah.
When you have frame rate issues, everything starts turning into like a slideshow at some points. And that's a problem. And so Helldivers 2 is by far the more polished game. It has far more varied enemies. It has far more varied weapons. Like, the other thing I would say too is progression in this is really slow. Like, I played this for probably 10 hours total, and I unlocked like 2 weapons the whole time. And granted, you know, these people that are playing it are hardcore. They are into this, man. Like, I wanted that turret. See that turret sitting there? I wanted it so bad, I never got it. But there are people who've been playing this for a long time, and, like, they're awesome, man. They take you under their wing, and they protect you, and they coach you, and tell you stuff that you should be doing. There's obviously a graphical glitch there when you're taking... Like I said...
They're bouncing.
Yeah.
They're ducking and standing up.
You think that's what they're doing?
No, 100%.
Oh, really?
100%. They're teabagging.
I thought they were getting caught in the door.
No, they're ducking and standing up as fast as they can.
Interesting.
That's absolutely what's happening.
Okay. It looks like a glitch. But Helldivers 2 is the more polished game. I think it has the better world objectives in this. Like, this was kind of tacked on last minute and feels like it was tacked on last minute.
Wow, Rico turned into David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, he does look exactly like David Hasselhoff.
Playing Nick Fury.
This is the single player here that you're about to see in the B-roll. I did record a little bit of it just to show you guys. But overall, like, I see. Minority Game says, can you fall in love and then a bug kills your girlfriend? I mean, I'll be honest. There's not a lot of Starship Troopers in this. Like, you don't really get the Starship Troopers vibe all that much. There's not, like, funny one-liners being fired off. Like, I don't know. I feel like Helldivers 2 is also a better representation of Starship Troopers, sadly. Like, it doesn't have the whole, like, tongue-in-cheek comedy that Helldivers 2 had, that, like, the films have. So, I don't know. I had a blast with this. It's dirt cheap. It's on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. If you watch this B-roll, you're like, that's something I might be into. Go pick it up. You're not going to regret it. What you see is what you get. WYSIWYG. So I had a lot of fun with it. Will I keep playing it? I've already had kind of 2 bouts of this. I played the early access version for 20-some hours. I played this final retail version for like 10 hours. Will I play it more? Probably a little bit here and there, but Call of Duty Black Ops 6 comes out here in a couple of days, and once that happens, it's going to take up all my shooter time for the foreseeable future. But if you're not a Call of Duty person and you like first-person shooters and you like Starship Troopers, you should buy this game. I think you'll like it. I think it's cheap. It's worth the amount of time you're going to get out of it. Will more than pay for itself ultimately. So yeah. But again, I do think you need to be a fan of Starship Troopers to get the most out of it, even though I don't feel like it does a great job. And there you can see the 3 different modes that I was talking about that you have to play through. The Protect the Mobile HQ is the one I was talking about, where you go out into the field and you're collecting canisters and then putting them into this receptacle or whatever. And you can see there's you can join groups, a clan, so you can spawn on your clans, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that's in your typical modern first-person shooter is in there. But obviously with the base building, it's kind of this unique selling proposition that does set it apart from even Helldivers 2. But again, Helldivers 2 more polished, cleaner game. I think your mileage will vary depending on your perspective on what you like or you don't like as to which game you'll like more. But I think you know the facts on both of them and you can make an educated decision, and that's what we're here for at GameFace. Any questions, Matt?
Nope.
No? And I don't think there's any questions in chat.
I would not like to know more.
Emperor Dread, there he says it. I remember Shane saying he had a good time with this one because the community was actually cooperating. Yeah, it stuck with me, and it's still that way. And I don't think you could play this game without that. It would be a nightmare. You need somebody to onboard you on this game. I mean, the tutorial's pretty good, but when the bullets start flying, it doesn't prepare you for how fast you have to do stuff. Like, before you actually start getting into it, you're like, oh, okay, I need to repair stuff. Surely I'm going to have plenty of time to do that. No. If it were up to me, that base would be like a quarter rebuilt and we'd be screwed. Thank God there are a lot of players in these games that know what they're doing already. They definitely help me out in many different situations. So there you go. That is Starship Troopers Extermination. Now, it is... I said earlier it was a reasonable price. It's actually not. It is $50.
Yeah, I was going to say that $50 is sitting there next to the title, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it is $50.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and it is maybe overpriced, I would say. But, again, if you get hooked on this, it's immeasurable hours. You could literally play it till the cows come home if you really get into it. But I think you are
Although
armed.
if you have a PS5, it sounds like Helldivers 2 runs better.
It does run better. Absolutely. And if somebody, gun to my head, said, should I get Helldivers 2 or should I get this? I would recommend Helldivers 2. I would.
There's at least more than one enemy type in Helldivers.
Yeah, and it does start to get monotonous after a while. Like, you end up starting to rely on the strategy of how you build your base and working together so you have enough people at this corner of the base to rebuild this part and that part. There's a lot more communication required in this than you do in Helldivers, and I think a lot of people, honestly, don't like having to communicate.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's the truth. So anyway, there you go. That is Starship Troopers Extermination. Okay. And with that, it is time for... That's right, Sifters. Name That Game is back. We had a hiatus last week, and I mentioned last week we're going to do Q&A at least once per month going forward. We are, but now we're back to Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots of a game, and you try to guess the name of that game before Matt Keil. You won the last time, didn't you? Two times ago. Yeah, somebody did win the last time we played. Yep. So Matt, you were on a little bit of a streak. You hadn't won in a long time when you won last time.
Yeah.
Yep, better than none. So anyway, there's a couple things to keep in mind before we play. If you've won this year, do not play. You can only win once every calendar year, and the winner of this gets a real PC game. And on that note, if you do not play PC games or you do not have somebody that you can give the PC game to, please do not play. We want to make sure that this code goes to a good home where people will actually use it. And then finally, the chat goes on slow mode, and so you only can put in one chat every 60 seconds. So don't just start spamming the chat with random game titles hoping you get it right. You won't. And then you will know what the game is, and you won't be able to input the chat. So make sure you are very prudent with how often you are inputting your guesses. And with that, I think we're ready. Are you ready, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
All right, my guess is we'll get this one on the third image. We'll see how it goes. All right, here we go. Name that game in 3, 2, 1, go. And of course, somebody will just get it on this one. Body Harvest, no. Emperor Dread. And people are starting to get smart. They don't guess on the first image as much as they used to. Because you are really just kind of guessing. Ace Combat 7, no. Every once in a while there's clues that you can get it. Uncharted 3, no.
I can see why you guessed that with the yellow paint over there.
Every game has yellow paint now, though, Matt. Because it tells people where to go in every video game. Cinetype, the housekeeping was only around an hour today, by the way. I don't know if you noticed. Death Stranding, no. Hybrid Heaven, no. Fire Native. Hybrid Heaven, mentioned twice in an episode of GameFace. That doesn't ever happen. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, no. It's not it. Any other guesses before we go to the second image? Going once. Going twice. Okay, here's the second image in 3, 2, 1, go.
Infamous.
Not Infamous. That's a really good guess, though. Quantum Break, no. Battlefield 1, no. Somebody can definitely get it from this. But they have to really know the game. Quantum Break is a good guess, too. Any other guesses for this second image? Doesn't look like it.
Watch Dogs Legion.
No, but that's another good guess. It's not it, though. Any other guesses? Ghostwire Tokyo from Jam Rain. No, but that's also a really good guess. This is for Vigigame, says Infamous Second Son. No. Matt guessed Infamous, and then you guessed Second Son. Both are not correct. Okay, any guesses? Going in 3, 2, 1. Metal Gear Revengeance. Nope. It's not it either, Eat Demon. All right, here's the third image. In 3, 2, 1, go! And I think somebody will get it from this. Prototype 2, no. 2 guesses of Prototype 2. Look at that.
Infinite Warfare?
Nope. It's not it either. Beyond Two Souls, no. Oh, we may make it to the fourth one.
It does look familiar.
Any other guesses? We don't have a lot of guesses coming in at all today. It's kind of odd. All right. That looks like it for the third image. Killzone Shadowfall, no, from Commander Fett. Incorrect.
I think you did that one a few times ago.
Did we?
I thought Shadowfall was this year sometime.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. Spark, no. That's not it either. I'm really starting to get to the point where I'd need to check the log to remember if I've done games before. Because we've done it so many times now. So I have to look now to make sure I'm not repeating. Okay. We're going to the fourth image. I didn't think we'd make it here, but here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go. Force Unleashed, no. Battlefield Bad Company, no. Vanquish, no. Outlaws, no. Do you mean Star Wars Outlaws? I don't know of a game called Outlaws, do you?
I mean, just Star Wars.
Yeah. Mirror's Edge, no.
There is a game called Outlaws. It's a Western game on like Amiga from like 1988 or something.
Stellar Blade, no.
Also Lucasfilm or LucasArts.
Haze, no.
Surge.
Nope, not Surge. Prototype, nope. A lot of people guessing Prototype with this. Interesting. Steel Rising, no. From Cantano. Going once. Going twice. All right, we're going to make it to the 5th image. This doesn't happen very often. And here we go. Image number 5. And the final image. You guys got to get it from this. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Avengers.
You got it. I was like, somebody better get it from the 5th one. Remember Me, no. Metal Gear Solid 5, no. Cinetite, Shane picked a good one. Yeah, Homefront, the Revulsion, no. It is Marvel's Avengers. Congratulations, Matt. You've won 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No Black Widow in this here.
Yeah, I knew that one. I mean, I want people to get it, obviously. So I made sure that it was obvious. Now let's go back and look at this one, Matt. Your wheels were turning on this one. I thought you were going to get it because you were looking right at the arm.
Yeah.
That's her long, bendy arm.
Yeah, I didn't recognize
You
it.
didn't? Okay. I thought me including a little cuff on it would be the giveaway, or just the flesh bending like that, like an arm.
because she's not in uniform there.
Yeah.
I more recognized the robot, I think, because of the stupid yellow aim coloring.
Mm-hmm. And let's go back. And that is Iron Man's blast
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
that you're seeing.
Iron Man's blast is supposed to be blue,
Yeah.
but
That's what it is in the game.
I mean, it looked familiar.
And then this is just like generic
That's
shock trooper enemy.
That's Captain America's knee, I think.
No, that's an enemy's knee, actually. Yeah. But they're the enemy that's literally littered throughout the entire freaking game. Well, there you go. Congratulations, Matt. 2 out of 3. You guys are starting to slip. Matt's starting to crush you guys at this. You guys got to bring your A game next week.
That game really left all of our minds.
I think people wanted it to leave their minds. All right, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 408 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Once again, we are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. SIFTD is how it's spelled, just to be safe. For just $4 per month, you get all our content early. You get this show, GameFace, 4 days early. You get all our other content at least 3 days early. You get Pactor Factor a week early. And here's the thing, though. You don't have to do that. Even for free, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can get Pactor Factor day and date right here at twitch.tv/siftedgames if you subscribe with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube right now, go down below. Do it right now. Hit pause. Go down below. Hook us up with Twitch Prime. You can give us a free $2.50 a month for nothing. It costs you nothing. Amazon took your money. Take it from Amazon and give it back to us. It's easy breezy. Once you've connected your accounts, it literally takes 3 seconds. So if you have not done it for a while and re-upped, go there right now, twitch.tv/siftedgames, and just subscribe to the channel using your Twitch Prime sub. We would appreciate it very much. And even if you don't have Amazon Prime, you can still help us. If you're watching the show on YouTube, like the show, leave a comment. Even if it's just one word, awesome. It doesn't matter what the comment is. The comments add up, and it bubbles us up in the algorithm. It makes a big difference for us. If you're listening on a podcast service, review the show there. Say it's the best gaming podcast ever. Give us 5 stars. All that stuff matters. It helps our show get out to new people. And if you are watching or listening to GameFace, then you know you're an evangelist for this. You know it's a good show. You know more people should be watching this show and more people should be listening to it. Please help us out if you can. We would really, really appreciate it. Commander Fett, you're welcome. Thank you for being here pretty much every week. Cinetite, thank you for being here pretty much every week. Thanks to all you guys who show up here every Tuesday. I don't take it for granted. As always, you guys make the show better, always. Oops.
Hey.
We'll see you next Tuesday with more reviews. You already know a couple games that we're going to be talking about next week, but we're also going to be talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 6 because that is coming out real soon. And I think Matt, I got you a code as well. Right. I know you're really excited about that.
Super excited. Finally, the 1 year I can just get it on Game Pass. And
That's true. That's true. But you'll own it forever.
Wow. Never can get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, listen, everybody. I hope you guys have a great week filled with awesome games. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.